You see, my name is Shrikant, and I have around 34 years plus of experience in FMCG industry, that is fast-moving consumer products. I worked in various multinational company like Jeffrey Manners, Glaxo Pharmaceuticals, and my last stint is one of the highly reputed company in India, is Amrutanjan Healthcare, where I was working as a vice president, and I was controlling a large team of about 400 plus sales and marketing professionals. In fact, I have widely traveled US, Europe, African, and few Asian countries for business development and things. And during my tenure, I handled several projects successfully during my Amrutanjan tenure, more than or close to around 20 projects. And you will be surprised that I did my PMP certification after my retirement. That is, during 2016, I did my PMP certification. You will also be surprised to know that for the first time, I sat in front of a computer for consecutively 4 hours during my PMP examination. Because fortunately, during my tenure, I had a secretary, most of other sending emails, sending letters like that. So our sitting in front of a computer itself was a big thing for me in those days. But I was really fascinated about, had a lot of passion for project management. When I used to interact with some of the US customers and European customers, they used to ask me, have you done PMP certification? To be frank with you, I didn't know even the expansion of PMP those days. But I was handling various projects successfully with a little bit of common sense and those things. Then, they used to tell me that, why don't you do PMP certification? Then I didn't find time because of my hectic traveling, because of my sales and marketing commitments, and because of my hectic other aspects. So after my retirement, I moved into place and I did my PMP certification. I did realize that if I had done this certification about 10 to 15 years back, probably I would have handled these projects much more successfully and without facing much challenges. In fact, that's what I felt. Because this PMP is such an excellent subject, is such an excellent thing that it will really change the way you work in an organization, the way you handle your projects. And that's how, I get fascinated. And I have been teaching. After my retirement, I've been teaching. 1 second. So I do take the classes when I travel in the US itself. I take a lot of classes. That's how I do. So this is my brief background, and I've been conducting a lot of doing these type of sessions. So it's a great pleasure. So whatever, Ms. Claudia, you have any apprehensions or inhibitions or any doubts, I would request you to please remove from your mind that thing. I'm sure that, with your rich experience, you should be able to pass this examination. You should be able to really understand this subject very well with so much of practical experience you have. I think you are from the operations, but still, you have a lot of experience. And once you go through these concepts, I'm sure, you'll be able to understand much, much better. And that should really help you to pass the examination. Am I clear, Ms. Claudia?
Yes.
Oh, that's
yes.
right. That's great, in fact. Okay. So with this brief background, let's take it forward. Okay. So far, any questions? Anything audio? Anything is there?
No questions.
No questions. Okay. That's fine. Am I audible? The sound is very clear. There's no issues. Am I right? I hope that's right.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
Okay. So we will start with this, the PMP session. I think, Mr. Eban, I think some of them could be a repetition for you. I think you already attended a class, right, last week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I started with just basically introduction type stuff.
Introduction. So probably we'll go through once again those introduction things a little bit fast. This is basically in the interest of Claudia. Then for Ms. Claudia, we will send you the recorded version so that you can go through that. And then we can take it forward. Is it okay, Ms. Claudia? We'll do like that?
Okay, that's fine. I thought this was the first lesson. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
That's fine for me.
That's fine? Okay, fine. Yeah. So anyway, we'll go through this. And because since you're going to be there only for about half an hour, Then once this session gets over today, I think they will send you the recorded versions. You can go through that so that we can catch it up again tomorrow. Tomorrow, the same time will be able to join, or you can join a little early.
Same time tomorrow's fine with me.
Oh, it's fine with you. And Miss Claudia? That's right.
It's fine, but I was able to move my class, so I'm able to attend the class a little longer today.
No, today is okay. How about tomorrow?
Tomorrow is fine too.
Tomorrow is fine. So you'll be able to be there for the entire session, I hope. That's right?
I'm trying to, yes.
Okay.
Are we having breaks in between? Because I will need to do a couple of things, but if I could always take my phone with me and I could still hear it.
Oh, okay. Normally, I just wanted to ask both of you for convenience. Once we start, we'll go ahead for about 1.5 hours time. Then we'll take a break for some time, and we can continue like that. That's how we normally do the sessions. Is it okay, Mr. Ebon, feel like that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. In fact, so about 1.5 hours. And today, Ms. Claudia, you'll just let me know when you want to go, so that I can stop it for a couple of minutes, and then you can go and we can restart. Okay, that's good.
Okay, thank you.
That's fine. So how many more minutes do you have? You have another about 15-20 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's great. That's fine. So the course content will be, there are about 15 lessons in the PMP certification course. We'll have an introduction and overview, then the professional and social responsibility, the project management framework, project management processes, integration management, and there are 9 the knowledge areas, in fact, and that is scope, schedule, cost, quality, resource, communication, risk, procurement, and stakeholders. These are the 9 knowledge areas. Of course, you need to integrate all those things. So project integration management. So 10 knowledge areas totally will have. Then the last one will be the appendix between PMP list of knowledge and skills. This is going to be the content which we are going to cover during the next 8 weeks or whatever the time which will be able to complete. It's fine? Okay. So the PMP certification, the introduction, let's try to understand a little bit basic, some of these important terms and concepts, which is very, very important for PMP certification. The PMI stands for Project Management Institute. Project Management Institute is the central body that they do this project management. So the PMI is the Project Management Institute, and the PMP.
Could I interrupt for a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Are you flipping slides?
Are you? I'm in the next slide. Can you see the slide?
I'm still on your brief introduction.
Oh, I see. Okay. You're not able to. It's a new slide.
I am not seeing the next slide.
1 second.
I don't see it either, actually.
Oh, there we go.
Now it comes. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Fine. If there is any small technical issues, please do let me know. Okay. That's why I'm sorry about that. Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm just telling you about the important terms and concepts related to your certification. The first one is the PMI, that is the Project Management Institute. Then PMP is the Project Management Professional. So that means once you're certified, once you pass this examination, you will be called as a PMP certified professional. So in your, you can put this designation, you are a PMP. CCR is the continuing certification requirements. That means this certification holds good for 3 years, and at the end of 3 years, you need to renew the certificates. So there are some things which I will explain to you during the course, that how you can renew this certification. PDU is the professional development units that you need to, for example, to take up this examination, you need certain number of PDUs, and for renewing also you need certain number, 60 number of PDUs you require. That is called professional development unit. PMBOK is a guide to the project management body of knowledge. That is PMBOK, project management body of knowledge. Now this 2019, we have the 6th series of the PMBOK guide. You know that this is getting evolved during the course of the years, once in 2 years or once in 3 years, the experts do meet, they discuss, they evolve, and that's how the new, the body of the project knowledge, it comes. Now you have the sixth version of the project management body, PMBOK guide, it's called. So PMBOK is a guide, is a textbook for the PMP examination. You see, once you become a member of PMI, you will be able to download this PMBOK guide free of cost. And Mr. Eban, are you a member of PMI already?
I am not.
You're not, in fact. Okay. So probably, before
I'm
any of
not either.
are you, Ms. Claudia, are you a member PMI?
Not yet.
Not yet, in fact. Okay. So I will also explain to you in the following slides that once you become a PMI member, then you will be able to download this PMBOK guide free of cost. This is around a 900-page booklet, and most of the examination questions will be based on this PMBOK guide. The REP is REP stands for Registered Education Provider. PMI is an organization. PMP is a credential. As I told you that Project Management Institute. PMI conducts and supervises the PMP examinations. You know that the PMI, for example, this project management concept, in almost about 180 plus countries throughout the world. And these examinations are held in the Prometric centers. I'm sure both of you must be very familiar with the Prometric centers. Have you visited, Mr. Rayburn, Prometric Center anytime? Mr. Rayburn?
I'm not familiar with it that I'm aware of.
Oh, okay. Ms. Claudia? Claudia? Hello?
Yes, I'm not familiar with it.
You're not familiar about the Prometric centers. Okay, that's why. It is there in almost all major cities, in fact, and you have the address and you can Google it. You will know that where is the nearby close, the Prometric center for you. Then the PMP conducts and supervises the PMP examination. Your PMP credential is valid for 3 years. That means at the end of 3 years, you need to renew the PMP certification. You might ask me that means should I rewrite the examination? No, there's no need to take up the examination again. But what you need to do is that with the PDUs, you can renew. How that can be done, probably I will explain to you in the following slides. Then 60 PDUs are required every 3 years to maintain your PMP certification. That's what it's required. And you can do by attending some webinars, they are doing by contributing. So there are so many ways of earning these PDUs. Is it clear about this slide? Any doubts or any clarifications required?
Yes, I was told. Oh, sorry.
No,
I was
go ahead.
told.
Yeah.
I was told that we were going to get all the material necessary for passing the
exam.
Yeah,
you will get them. You will get the material. That's right. We will send you this presentation, and we'll also give you the recorded version of this so that you can keep going through that. You will be getting the material. That's right, definitely. But one more thing, you need to the PMBOK guide. Of course, you need to download it. Because that is exclusively for the members, so that you need to download it. I will tell you that how that can be done. In fact, okay. Now the right side.
For the membership.
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry.
We need to do the membership first.
Yeah, you need to. Because in that slide I will explain to you. Because total amount that you're going to pay, whether once you become a member and to take up the examination, it will remain same. So you need to become a member. So that will help you to get into lot of benefits. You can get into a lot of networking. You can there's so much of content information available. You can keep downloading that information. So it is it's an excellent thing to be a part of the PMI. In fact, be a member. Probably after a couple of slides, I will explain to you in fact in detail about that. The right side, you can see a triangle. Am I right? It is called the PMI Talent Triangle. What is important is that you see there are hundreds of managers, in fact, everywhere, am I right? But there are some, before that I want to tell you that, that more than 65% of the projects worldwide, it gets failed. It is not successful. Projects fail because of various reasons. The common reasons could be that the schedule variance will be there or the cost variance will be there. Things can go out of control. This is all basically because that the efficiency of the project manager is questioned in many of these places. So that's how, then the PMI, they made a study of that, why these project fails in part, what could be the reasons for that. And some of the reasons that the project managers were not efficient to handle some of these projects. So what is important that, so the talent triangle, in order to make the project a successful one, so that you can reduce the failure rate, there are three very important things that as a project manager, we need to remember or we need to understand that. That's called PMI Talent Triangle. The first and most important thing is the strategic and business management. As a project manager, you need to understand the organization strategies. That's very, very important. You need to align with the organization strategies. You need to understand that very, very clear. And also, you should understand the business management. This is the basic fundamental thing for a project manager. Once that is done, you should also have a bit of technical project management skills or the experience. That's very, very important, that knowledge. For example, let's say, the technical thing, you are laying a foundation, for example, for a home, the project, you should know that laying a foundation requires what are the basic things, the technical competence, the technical requirement, how much cement you need to use, how much water to be put in, how much concrete you need to put in. So these are all the basic technical things that as a project manager, you should be aware of it. The third most important and the most difficult part is also leadership. Because basically leadership, basically in the project management environment, you're dealing with people. You're communicating with people. You're interacting with people, with the team members. So in order to be successful, the project manager has to be good in communication. He should be good in interpersonal skills. He should be a good team motivator. He should have the leadership qualities. So this all comes under the leadership. So the combination of all these three, strategic and business management, technical project management, and a good leadership quality can make a project successful. Do you agree with Mr. Raybon, with your experience? Do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. Ms. Claudia.
On all three of those.
Pardon me? Sorry.
On all three of those.
All the three areas, absolutely right. Each one is so important, and that's why it's called a PMI Talent Triangle. Do you agree, Ms. Claudia, on this?
Yes.
Okay. Have you experienced in your operations, for example, any of these issues, like leadership problems, the communication problems? Have you experienced when you're interacting with the other team members with you?
Communication is usually the biggest issue.
Biggest issue, am I right? Absolutely right. Because each person comes with different emotions. For example, in a 5 days week or a 6 days week, somebody is good in Monday morning. Probably he may not be good with some feelings on Wednesday morning. Am I right? So each one. So as a project manager, you need to understand how to speak, when to speak, what to speak. They're all very, very important. Understanding the stakeholders and engaging with the stakeholders of the team members is a very, very critical point, critical part in the important thing in the project management environment. Okay, fine. Any questions on this so far?
No questions.
Okay. I keep asking so that, in case if there is thing we can clarify then and there, or you can make a note and we can discuss at the end of the session also. Whichever is convenient for you, we can take it forward like that. Okay, let's move on. So this is coming to the exam, the application examination. Both of you have the bachelor's degree or the master's degree. You have, Claudia?
I'm on the bottom line.
Oh, you're in the, okay. You have the diploma, right? You're the diploma. Okay. That means you require 7,500 hours of the project handling.
Yep.
And Ms. Claudia, you must be having a...
I have an associate degree and I'm completing my bachelor. I have 1 more year to go.
Oh, 1 more year to go. Oh. That means you also fall into the second one, probably. That's right. You require 7,500 hours. Just look at your qualification, then you can take a call on that. Okay, that's fine. So here, this is the basic requirement, and you need to have, both of you have, I'm sure, in the 36 months within last 8 consecutive years, and here is 60 months within the last 8 consecutive years. We will try to help you to fill up this application. What is required is you need to download this application. You will get it from the www.pmi.org. This is what I was trying to explain, both of you, that once you need to become a member for the PMI by paying $129 US and with a $10 application fee, and the renewal fee every year will be $129. That is for every year if you want to renew to be a member of PMI. Now the exam cost for the non-members, it will be $555. Okay, this is what the examination fee you need to pay. But once you become a member, you have to pay only $405. So it makes all the sense that you become a member of PMI probably whenever it's convenient in next 1 week or 2 weeks time, so that the advantage is that you become a PMI member, you'll have a lot of networking, you have a lot of information, a lot of material you can download, and you can study those things. So once you become a member, you have to pay $405, and so it's always advisable to become a member before you take up the examination. Is it clear, Ms. Claudia, on this? Am I clear? Mr. Raymond?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
That's
I'm good.
Okay, good. So once the exam fee is paid, then what you need to do is that before, once you become a member, you download the application and you submit the application to the PMI. Once you send this application, you will receive an authorization letter to take the exam. And what is important thing is you should take the examination within 1 year of paying that examination fee. That's very, very important. So what you should first do is that you prepare your application and submit it to PMI. Once you submit to the PMI, you will receive an authorization letter. And once you receive the authorization letter, then you can decide about your examination. So as I said, you must take the examination within 1 year of receiving the authorization letter. Sometimes these applications also go for audit, and we'll also explain to you, in fact, and the details of how we can handle this audit. This information is available again in www.pmi.org. You will have all the information. So far, is it very clear? So what you should do, Mr. Raymond and Ms. Claudia, that open an Excel sheet today, and you start putting the number of hours you have put in the last 36 months, the various projects you have handled, and the number of hours you have spent. And that should tally to the total number of 7,500 hours. Am I clear on this? That's how you should start preparing for submitting the application.
Yes.
Okay, good.
I probably don't have 7,500 hours, and I don't remember in like the projects I did in the past and how much time I spent.
You don't remember? No.
No, it's been too long. Like it's impossible. And how do I go back and record that?
Probably we'll discuss along with Mr. Sean separately on this. We'll try to give some inputs on that. Okay, we'll do that. Okay, is it clear, Ms. Claudia? We'll connect and we'll try to help you.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. Now, the guidelines to complete the PMP application is you become a PMI member before submitting the application, PMP application, as I explained to you. Then enter your name and contact details accurately, because that is the name which is going to come in your certification. So don't make any spelling mistakes or correct. Your name should be exact. In the project experience field, enter just enough information to meet the eligibility criteria and reference PMI terms. That's very important. You cannot write too many sentences. You cannot write too many words. It has to be very, very specific, because I think the max you can have about 600 characteristics there. So in the PMI application, there's all clearly mentioned that. You can go through that, which is very, very clear. Then state the work done in brief, focus specifically on the work that you have done. Then contact all the primary contacts mentioned in your application before submitting it. Because that means, suppose you are giving your HR person name, inform them that you are going to write the PMI examination, inform them that you have mentioned their name and their designation and their contact number, so that in case if there is any clarifications required from the PMI, if they write to that person directly, they are aware of and they can replace suitably, in fact. So that's very important. The primary contacts has to be kept informed with the required details. And if suppose if you have any doubts, we will definitely help you to fill up the application. Ms. Claudia will definitely discuss along with Mr. Sean and how we can do the needful in that regard. Okay, that's fine. Then your application, in case if it gets picked up for audit, then follow the instruction received on email. They will mention you that what all is required. And if they want some further proofs or further information, you can do that and you can resubmit it. This is how the application form gets filled up and submitted. Hope there is no doubts in this regard. Okay. Now, about the PMP examination, I would like to briefly touch upon that. The total duration of the examination is going to be 4 hours. That is 240 minutes is what you get. As I told you that the examination will be held in the prometric centers. They are the centers which is you can Google which is the nearby one for your place. You can select that and you need to mention in the application form, for example, where you are going to write your examination, which is the prometric center you are going to select. As I told you that there will be 200 questions. Out of this, there will be 25 questions are considered a pre-test questions. That is for the future, but they would have included those 25 questions. But you don't know which are those 25 questions. So you need to answer all the 200 questions. Even though 175 questions are scored, but you need to answer all the 200 questions. This is very, very important. All questions are multiple choice questions. There will be A, B, C, D, and you need to select one correct answer out of those 4 choices you have. Yeah. Any doubts, Mr. Reba? No.
No doubts.
Okay, good. Ms. Claudia, are you with me? You're fine.
Yes.
Okay, good. So the 200 questions, there are 4 multiple choices, and you need to select the right answer. And you get 1 point for every right answer, and there is no, for example, negative marking for the answer. The PMI grades, normally they give, there are 5 process groups which I'm going to explain to you in detail. Normally they give a grade as below target, target, above target, and needs improvement for all the 5 processes. Okay. So, and the result is determined by a combination of these grades. How many grades or number of points one has to score to pass the PMP certification is not made public. Nobody knows that how many scores, how many you have to answer. For example, nobody knows about it, but generally they say that if you answer 150 questions correctly, then there are every possibility of passing the examination. So you need to answer minimum 150 questions to pass the examination. This is very, very critical. It should be minimum. For example, when this about target, it could be more than 85%. That means about 170 questions you would have answered. Probably you may get about target, but the target is going to be minimum 150 questions. That is what normally the industry experts or I interact, they say that. So to pass the examination, that is going to be the benchmark. So the result is determined by a combination of these grades, as I told you. Now, in the project management environment, normally there are 5 process groups: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling and closing. You are familiar with some of these concepts? I'm sure Mr. Raybon must be very, very familiar. Am I right?
Yeah, we went through some of that last weekend.
Oh, last weekend. Okay. Ms. Claudia, are you familiar with these terminologies? Initiating, planning, executing.
Yes. I don't know if it goes on the again.
Sorry, I didn't get it.
No, I wasn't sure if I had to tap to be heard, and my phone was going off. Yes, I'm familiar with the terms.
You are familiar with the terms, but okay, that's right. What sometimes to make it a little more interesting and easy to understand, I try to, for example, relate to these things to our personal projects. For example, I'm sure you've done a home project, you would have bought a flat. That itself is a project, am I right? You agree with me on that, Mr. Raybon? Buying
Yes.
a flat is a project, am I right? Personal.
Yep.
I'm right. And Miss Claudia, you also agree with me that when you buy a flat, I'm sure it must be a project. It is a project. So you initiate buying your flat. Then after initiating, you start planning that, how much money I require, where do I buy this flat, whether it's a 2-bedroom accommodation, whether it's a 3-bedroom accommodation. So you start planning that, am I right? After planning, you will start executing that. Once you plan that, then suppose you need finance, you go to a financial institution and you start taking the loan. Then you will hire a contractor or you go to a builder, you start executing the project. Then during the execution, you will also do the monitoring and control. You keep visiting your flat and find how the progress is going on. If suppose you start giving some suggestions, whether in the master bedroom or a kitchen that you need that extra facilities or like that, you keep monitoring and controlling that. And after that, the project is completed. When the home is ready, we will close the project. Am I right? That's how you would have done it. This is just an example.
I'll give you money.
Ms. Claudia?
Yes. Sorry, I was talking to my son.
Oh, okay. Sorry?
Like it's on. You can hear my kids talking, or you can hear just me. Like I'm trying to.
No, I do get the background noise sometimes. A small kid talking, actually. That's right. Yeah. Okay. As long as it doesn't.
So I don't understand.
Sorry. What is that? Sorry. I didn't get you. Sorry.
My microphone is muted. Now I unmuted it. But you say you hear the noises. But how do you hear it if I mute it?
Right now I can hear you, what you're telling. What you can do is that when you mute it, suppose you want to interact, you can send me a message in the chat box so that, I can come back to you in case if you have any clarification. Is it okay if you do like that? Okay,
so you're muting it, correct?
When you mute, but you can hear me, am I right? Am I right when you mute?
Yes, I can hear you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. Yeah, that's right.
Well, for example, now I'm going to mute it and I'm going to talk. I want to see if it works.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Let's see. But okay, how it goes. How much more time you have now? Let me keep asking that.
No, like I said in the beginning, I moved my class to a different day. So I was able to do it, but I wasn't able to do it until this morning. I kept asking for it, but I didn't have an answer until this morning.
Okay.
So I am available, but I was planning, because since I had that appointment, I was planning on going out for doing another thing. But now that's why I was talking to my son. But so like I'm trying to understand this, because I muted it and you can hear me, but then you say you hear the background noise. So I'm a little confused on this. For example, I'm gonna unmute it again, but you say you hear noises.
Oh, okay. Now it's not. There's no noise. No, I'm not hearing any noise. Okay.
I guess you. Okay, so you couldn't hear me because I muted it. And you couldn't hear me. So I'm a little confused on this.
Okay.
I'm gonna unmute it again. I really can't.
I can hear you. You're muted. Okay.
Because I unmuted it, but now I'm gonna mute it again, like it was before.
Okay. Okay. Let's see how it goes. In fact, okay, that's fine. So did I understand this on these process groups: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling, closing? So usually in any project, Normally, you spend 7% of your time on closing, 13% on initiating the project, and planning you do about 24%, and executing 31%. Monitoring and control is 25%. It's like that. So the questions here are also based on this. And the closing process group will have 7% of the questions. So that means you'll have 14 questions. The execution, both of you will agree with that, it is the most important thing. So you'll have 31% of your questions are based on your execution. That means you can expect 62 questions there. The planning process group will have about 48 questions, that is 24%, and monitoring and control will have 25% of the questions, that means 50 questions. That's how the 200 questions are going to be in the PMI examination. I hope Mr. Raybon is clear on that. Okay, that's fine.
Yes, I'm good.
Very good, very nice. Okay. So the PMP syllabus, there are 5 process groups, 10 knowledge areas, and 49 processes in the PMBOK Guide 6th edition. So there are 5 process groups. How do we remember this 5, 10 knowledge area, and 49 process groups, processes? How do we remember that? Is there any easy way of remembering it? Normally, I tell my students that suppose in our hand, right hand or a left hand, how many fingers are there? 5 fingers. Am I right? Correct?
Yes, yes.
So there are 5 process group, that means 5 fingers. Okay? Fingers. Okay. And there are 10 knowledge area, that means both hands put together, you will have 10 fingers. Am I right? So 10 knowledge. It's easy to remember, 10 knowledge areas. Now 49 processes are there. How do we remember 49 processes? It's just a number, but still, I will give you a mobile number. It's easy if you can write it down, Mr. Raybon and Ms. Claudia. How do we remember the 49 processes? You have a piece of pen and paper there? You have, both of you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Can you please write it down? This
I don't have it, just a second.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if I needed but okay. How big is
okay.
it has to be?
Okay. Can you write down 7664
7664
363 and 734? Okay. Can I repeat once again? 7664 363 734. Mr. Raybon, can I ask you, if you don't mind, if you don't mistake me, that do you remember your wife's mobile number?
I do.
You do remember. Excellent. Okay, fine. My son-in-law, says that, he never remembers my daughter's mobile number, and they get into many fights many times because they say that it's all stored with a memory in the mobile phone. So I'm right. So you don't require many times to remember the mobile numbers of many people, because once you press their name, the number will appear. But many times, we don't remember the mobile numbers. But this is one number I would request both of you to remember this. 7664, 363 and 734. I'll tell you the reason also when we get into the knowledge area, that why it is important. 49 processes, how do you remember this? So it is easy to remember through this mobile number. I will tell you that probably when you get into that knowledge areas. So this is important, the PMP, that there are 5 process groups, there are 10 knowledge areas, and there are 49 processes that you need to remember. And your entire examination is going to be based on these things. So it's important that the questions will come from these 10 knowledge areas, the questions will come from these 5 process groups, and the questions will come from the 49 processes. So that's the reason this is very, very important to remember. Any questions, Mr. Raybon, Ms. Claudia?
No questions.
Am I clear, Ms. Claudia? Okay.
Yes.
Good. Okay. So in this 6th edition, I was trying to explain to you that there are some changes because the PMBOK guides, PMBOK book keeps getting evolved. So what they've done in the 6th edition is they've added manage project knowledge, control resources, and implement risk responses. These are the 3 processes have been added in the 6th edition. I will explain to you in the particular the knowledge areas now when it comes. Manage project knowledge and control resources will be there. Part of that, implement risk responses in the risk knowledge area will be there. So I'll try to explain to you in detail when we get into the knowledge areas. And one process has been removed, that the close procurement process has been removed because these experts found that probably it may not be that important, so that they wanted to add these 3 and removed 1. So that's how it became 49 processes. Okay, now let's try to understand a little bit of basic definitions about the project. What is a project? Mr. Raymond, can you just tell me what is a project according to you?
Project is project is what you're working on as a start, middle, and an end.
Working a start, middle, and an end. Excellent. Okay. Ms. Claudia, you want to add anything to that? What's a project?
Anything that needs to be that we're working on, and it could be small, big, or medium, I guess.
Okay. Mm-hmm. We'll try to understand what is a project and what is the benefits of a project management, and also the reason that I was telling you that more than 65% project fails, and what are the reasons for that, reasons for project failures, then the roles in the project management. These are all some of the things that in the following slides we'll try to understand. So what is a project? Project, according to the PMI, it is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. It is any project, it is a temporary endeavor. Okay.
All right. So.
Yeah. It is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product. It could be a service or it could be a result, any of these things. That is called a project. Projects are performed by the people.
For sandwiches.
That's very, very important.
Get like turkey and ham. Cheese.
I think she's talking to someone. Let's see.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I was talking to my son. Sorry about that.
I think you're trying to place some order for food. I think it's okay.
Oh, did I turn it off, or is it still on?
It was on. Okay, that's okay. Yeah, that is okay. No problem. Okay. So, did you understand this definition of a project, Ms. Claudia? That project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or a result. Projects are performed by people. So that's one of the reasons that, the leadership, the talent triangle, I was trying to explain that it is so important in the project environment that you should be a good leader, you should have good management skills, people management skills, you should be good in communication, because the projects are performed by the people. It's always constrained by limited resources. I'm sure both of you will agree with me that no management or the new organization will give you lot of resources to complete a project. Am I right? You agree, Mr. Raymond, on that? There's always, your resources is always limited.
Yes.
In terms of people, or in terms of finance, or in terms of your infrastructure, it's always limited. It's constrained by the limited resources. Projects are done once it is finished. That's why it's called temporary. It is not a permanent. So planned, executed, and controlled. These are the 3 important things. All projects are planned well, they're executed well, and they're controlled well during the various phases. Projects are temporary in nature. You have a beginning and you have an end for every project. Projects and operation differs primarily in the operations are ongoing and repetitive. For example, manufacturing will become an ongoing, or it become a repetitive. So it is not, manufacturing is not a project. while projects are temporary and unique endeavors, because at the end of each project, that will be something unique. It is not done before, or probably it may not done next. That's called it is a project. Projects can contain repetitive elements, but the elements do not change the unique characteristics of the project. For example, home project, it might be a repeated, same thing you would have adopted, the principles, but those elements does not change the unique characteristics of a project, because each home is different. For example, each road construction is different. It's like that. Each projects are entirely different from one another. This is how the project definition. So important to remember, project is always a temporary endeavor to create a unique product, or it could be a service, or it could be a result. So what are the examples? I'm sure both of you must be very, very familiar. Developing a new charger for cell could be a project. Expanding the service offering to a consulting firm could be a project. Merging two organizations. You know that, in the history, FMCG industry, I want to quote Procter & Gamble. You heard about the company's name, PG, Procter & Gamble, a very famous company in the US. Mr. Raybon, you must have heard.
Yes.
Okay, and Gillette brand, I think you must have also heard about that, am I right? So in 2005, the Gillette company got merged with the Procter & Gamble. So that is one of the biggest or the largest acquisition has happened in the between two companies those time. So the merging of two organizations is also a project. Nowadays, there are a lot of mergers and takeovers happens. So it's all a project. Implementing a new accounting system and the corresponding process changes also could be a project. Renovating your corporate office space, it could be a project. Improving your home, for example, furnishing could be a project. Developing a research around a particular political issue. Both of you are very familiar with American elections. I'm sure each election could be a project. Performing a study on the environmental impact on a new bridge in a rural area could be a project. And building a new parking garage, creating a new watch for your children to be on the time to class could be a project. So each of these, I'm sure you will agree with me that they're all temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. Are we clear, both of you, on this project? What is a project? Ms. Claudia,
Yes,
I hope you're
clear.
That's good. So what are the characteristics of a project? Projects will have a definite beginning and end. So that's what I said, that you will have a starting date and you will have an ending date for each project. It could be vary according to the complexity of the project, according to the dimension of the project, according to the size of the project. There are some projects, for example, birthday party at home. It could be just a 3 hours party. It could be a small project. Am I right? I'm sure each project, a birthday project, is also a project. It starts at 7 o'clock, for example. You invite your guests, they will all come, the children will come, and you have some fun. Then you cut the cake, then you have dinner or you'll have snacks, and at the end, in fact, they will leave. So that means your birthday project gets over. So you'll have a beginning and end. Projects can have varied duration, ranging from very short or very long also. Projects are completed when the defined objectives are met. What you plan in the beginning, if those objectives are achieved, then the projects, or it defined that, that it gets completed. The goals objectives cannot be met within the budget time with the available resources or chosen technology. For example, sometimes in between the projects get stopped, it gets terminated. It could be for various reasons, that it might be out of the budget, that it could be out of your schedule. Suppose you planned a project for 6 months and it keeps on going after 1 year or 1.5 years, then the project will lose its value itself. So then you terminate the project. Available resources. For example, if our management would have promised certain funds, and if they're not able to meet that fund requirement for various reasons, then the project also gets terminated. Or the chosen technology. You would have decided to do a project on a particular technology. If that technology becomes obsolete, then again the project becomes terminated. So these are all some of the reasons why the projects gets terminated and the projects also gets completed. The funding is exhausted, the need to perform the project has changed or been eliminated. Suppose you started a project, in fact, and your competitors have also done 10 times better than what you wanted to do. At that time, your management may take a decision to terminate the project. Or legal or contractual issues to result in project closure. Suppose suddenly you get into some legal hazards, some contractual hazards, then the project also get terminated or closed or completed. So these are all some of the project characteristics. What drives the projects is very, very important to understand that. One is to drive a change, it transforming business from one state to another. You see, every company wants to grow, am I right? Mr. Raymond, you agree with that? No company can be there in a present state, isn't it? We all have to grow. Ms. Claudia, you agree with me on that? Hello? Yeah.
Yes, I finally, I guess, found the way to stop. It says I'm muted, but it wasn't unmuted. Now it works. Yes, I agree.
Oh, you agree with that. That's good. Okay, fine. It's working out now? Well, okay, that's good. That's nice. So,
yes, it looks like it works now.
Oh, very nice. Okay. Mr. Eban, you agree that, the driver change, that transforming from one state to another, which is the most important thing in every organization.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, that's right. Strategic shifts, that is the strategic reason that the organization take, organizational growth, mergers and acquisition. I gave you the example of P&G and Gillette. There are hundreds of examples we can give on the mergers and acquisitions. To enable a business value, new market opportunities. You're looking at, for example, new geographical areas. You're doing well in New York or Texas. You move on to do something in California. It's like that, new market opportunities. Response to competition, that's another reason. If your competitors are coming out with some different, unique thing that you want to compete with them, so you come out with a new project. Global marketplace, which is very, very common nowadays. Today, you talk about the borderless economy, am I right? For example, most of the multinational companies operates in different countries. There are more than hundreds of companies, of US companies operates in India or in Asia or many other countries. It's all global marketplace today. Borderless economy, the technology is there, for available, so it's easy to reach the markets. Decreasing profit margins, that could be another reason for enabling the business value. Suppose the business which you are doing, your profits margin are getting eroded, then you relook at and you come out with some new projects. To meet increasingly complex set of challenges, technology changes, which is very, very rapid today. With so much of technological advancement, so you need to really look at the various projects. For example, you remember, Mr. Raybon, that fax machine. Once upon a time, fax machine, you recall that was a very, very popular thing in every office, am I right? Fax machines.
Yeah, we still use them once in a while, but not very often.
you still. But I think in most of the offices, the fax machines are not there. But am I right? It's not there now.
Correct.
And Kodak company, you heard about Kodak? A very famous company, Kodak. Kodak cameras, Kodak film rolls. You must have heard about that.
Yes.
Yeah, you see, about 20 years back, Kodak was, for example, they had 175,000 people are working in that company, Kodak. 175,000, that is 175,000 people are working. And it's one of the leading company in camera rolls and cameras. Today, that company is no longer there in that because the technology changes. Today, most of the people use cameras, your mobile phone as a camera, right? Hardly you find people carrying a big cameras with them. The SLR, of course, those who got passion, taking the pictures, they do carry. But your camera thing is done with your mobile phones, am I right? Every mobile phone has got a camera today. Even every mobile phone has got, you can take the picture and your documents, you can fax your machine. All those things are incorporated in the mobile phone itself. So that's the technology changes which is happening, which is driving the changes. The world markets, today, as I told you, it is a global market. No company can operate in a single country today if it wants to grow. It's a global market. Legal and regulatory issues and other environmental factors could be the reasons for the projects. These are all some of the key factors which drives the projects in fact. Mr. Reban, you come from the architecture background, the construction background. What drives you in your field, new projects?
My market is K through 12 schools.
Okay.
So it's trying to improve the learning experiences for the students.
Students. Oh, great. Okay. And what technology that you use there in most of these things, learning and tools? What technology that you are trying to incorporate in that?
What technologies am I incorporating in that?
Yeah.
Everything's electronic and building management and information.
Information technology.
All accessed on the computer and within our drawings.
Oh, very good. Okay, that's great. How long you have been doing these things?
32 years.
32 years. Oh, I see. I think you would have seen a lot of changes, am I right? The technological development.
Yes.
When you started, for example, your drawing board or all those things, you used to do it on a piece of paper, on a chart paper, am I right, those days?
Pencil and erasers, and then we went to ink and erasers, and now
Ink
we're on
and erasers.
computers.
Carbon copy, carbon papers, am I right?
Yep.
And that's how we used to do, and used to communicate. How do you used to communicate? On a telephone? There were no mobiles those days, am I right?
We were attached to a wire.
You are attached to a wire always. Absolutely right, in fact. And your meetings, you used to have a one-to-one. Most of your meetings used to be one-to-one, am I right? Those
Yep,
days?
you either had to go to their place or they come here.
They come to your place, am I right?
Yep.
And today, you look at the changes that has happened. Video conferencing, I'm sure you must be doing Skype meetings, WhatsApp messages. So in your last 32 years, I'm sure you would have seen lot of changes, in fact.
Definitely.
I really admire you, Mr. Evan, because I'm so happy that you're doing this certification now with so much of experience. In fact, really hands off to you. I really appreciate your passion.
No problem.
That's really great. And Ms. Claudia, you would have seen some of these changes, the technological changes.
I actually started in architecture back, but then I changed the direction from architecture to accounting.
Oh, accounting.
And now instead information technology now. So
okay.
I changed a little bit, but at that time drawings were with a pencil and we were doing everything like that. We had no computers. And I passed through all of that too.
All that,
like,
absolutely.
All the stages, yes. And now faxes are called faxes, but they're actually email with the attachments.
Absolutely right.
So yeah,
that's right. In the communication, they say that first it was a C-mail. Suppose you write a letter in US and to write to somebody about 25 years back or 30 years back, C-mail used to take around 35 days to reach the other part of the country, another part of the world. Then came the airmail. Airmail, it used to take around 2 to 3 days. Suppose you write a letter to go to China to one of your customer or India or any other place, it used to take around 3 to 4 days. But today we are in an era of email, am I right? Email, it takes hardly 3 or 4 seconds to reach the other part of the world, am I right? So this is called C-mail, email, airmail and email today. So we are in the era of emails today. That means within a few seconds, you can reach any part of the world. It is an advantage and sometimes it could be a disadvantage also. In fact, if it is not handled properly, am I right? Suppose you can make a mistake by any chance and you have no control that once the mail goes, isn't it? So these are all some of the other side of any technology also. That's right. So
you're forgetting telex. It used to be
telex
telex instead of faxes.
Yeah, fax. Okay.
And I used to be a telex operator and I lost my job to emails.
Nowadays, even telex is not there. Am I right? Telex roles.
That was back when I was in school, so long time ago.
Now, you see that, telex rolls, that used to be a big, big market. The bundles of paper on rolls, in fact, the big telex rolls. I still remember in our office, we used to use it a long time back. And it's like that. So these are all some of the technology changes which are driving the projects. Good. So the definition of project management, let's try to understand the PMI definition. The project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirements. The knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques. These are the four important things. These are the application of project management to the project activities to meet the project requirements. So you're applying your knowledge, you're applying your skills, you're applying your tools and techniques. Do you find any difference between knowledge and skills, Mr. Reban? You want to give an example. What is knowledge and what is skill?
Knowledge is what you know. Skills is how you use it.
Absolutely right. You hit on the nail. Very nice. Excellent, right. Ms. Claudia, you want to add something to that? Knowledge and skill?
I think he said it just right.
Absolutely right, in fact. Okay. Just to give an example, for example, of course, you must be flying in US day in, day out. Every day you must be flying. You see, most of the flights that when you land in airports, sometimes in when you land, it will be so smooth, am I right? Some of the aircrafts, the way you land in Dallas or New York, the landing will be so smooth. But in sometimes, the landing will be so bad, isn't it? You will have a jerk. Have you experienced such things in landing? Mr. Raybon? Aircraft landing or takeoff, you would have experienced that? Smooth landing or smooth takeoff. Have you experienced it?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, experience. So the same pilot, same project, same aircraft, but certain pilots, they land it so smoothly that you don't feel that you have landed in an airport. But in sometimes, I've experienced it many times, the way they land, you get a big jerk. That is the difference between a knowledge and skill. Every pilot knows how to land or how to take off, but there are certain pilots, they do it so smoothly. That is skill. That means you are applying that knowledge in a particular area so well that you get best out of that. That is one key difference between a knowledge. As Mr. Raybon clearly said, knowledge is a bookish or but skill is applying that knowledge, where to apply, how much to apply, that is called skill. So the project management is basically the application of that knowledge, that skills, and you will have some tools and techniques to project activities to make the project requirements. I hope I'm clear on that. These four are very, because these keep repeating, so that's the reason I thought, let me explain to you with an example. It's accomplished through the appropriate application and integration of the project management processes and knowledge areas. I hope you remember the 10 knowledge areas, and there will be 49 processes. I gave you the mobile number. You kindly keep repeating that so that, by end of the session, you remember that mobile number, so that it will help you to remember these 49 processes. It enables organization to execute projects efficiently and effectively. As I told you that, there are hundreds of project managers, but certain project managers are very good because they handle these projects effectively and efficiently. When you say effectively and efficiently, that means they are proactive. You see, every project will have a risk. Mr. Raymond, can you recollect any project without any risk in your experience? Is there any project that you have done without any risk?
Oh, there's always risk.
Not at all, am I right? Ms. Claudia, I'm sure any project environment, there will be bound to be risk. But
yes, definitely.
I'm right. So a good project manager is one who anticipates these challenges, who is proactive. Suppose a risk is going to happen, he proactively address that. That's how these project management concepts will help you to run your projects to effectively and efficiently. That's a very, very important thing. And once you do the certification, by end of the certificate, I'm sure that you become much more competent, much more efficient, much more capable, much more effective when you handle your project. Because this is what exactly did, which I experienced when I was handling the projects, without studying some of these concepts. And now I did realize, as I told you, that if I had known these concepts well, probably I would have faced lesser challenges, or I would have sorted out this problem much more easily. So the common definition, the project management, is the art of creating the illusion that any outcome is the result of a series of predetermined deliberate acts, when in fact it was a dumb luck. It's not that there is no luck involved. It is purely the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques that to meet the project requirements. Okay, so let's now come to the project management, formalized approach to manage a unique project, service, or a result. As I told you, that the project is a temporary endeavor to achieve a unique project, unique product, service, or a result. So there are 5 process groups. As I told you, that one hand, 5 fingers, both hands put together, there are 10 knowledge areas and 49 processes. There are 7664, 363, and 734. I keep repeating that so that you will understand that if you add up all that, it will become 49. Can you just do that if you don't mind? Can you please add 7664? Mr. Raymond? Sorry, I'm just giving one mathematical work. Can you please do that, Ms. Claudia?
Add where? I wrote it down.
Yeah, you please add all those. You please add all those digits. 7. You add 7.
Oh, add them on. Okay.
Add them all.
And 49.
49? Yeah, that's right. That's great. Okay. So there are 49 processes.
Oh, I see that.
You got it, Ms. Claudia?
Yes.
Good. So that's the 49 processes. And when I talk about the 10 knowledge areas, that mobile number has got 10 digits, am I right? It starts with 7, followed by 6, followed by 6. So there are 10 knowledge areas, and each digit pertaining to one knowledge area. I will explain to you when we go into the knowledge areas. The project management is also spanned across industries today. It is not specific to a particular industry. It's not just IT related, or it is not just related to construction. It is today, it is spanned across various industries like oil and gas, petrochemical, construction, information technology, software development, telecom, various industries. Today the PMI concepts or the project management concepts are there. Standard documentation and standard process and approaches. You see, as I told you, Mr. Raymond, that the PMI today, for example, in about 180 plus countries across the world. So one advantage is when you do this certification, suppose you are interacting with a China customer, or you are interacting with a Brazil customer, or you're interacting with any other country where they have done this project management, or the company is familiar, the terminologies that you use, for example, or the language that you use, the project management language, will be so common. So once that becomes common, what it helps is it's easy to interact. It is easy to interact with them, and so that you can get along with your communication much more easy. So that is one of the biggest advantage. So when the acquisition merges, suppose it happens, then if the two organizations have done this project management, or the PMI, for example, the project managers are involved, and if they're certified, it's easy to do this acquisition and mergers. So these are all some of the biggest advantages of the project management. It's also tailored to meet specific project and organizational needs. It is not just at a broad level. For a particular project, it always gets tailor-made. For example, these tools and techniques, all tools and techniques, you need not use in all the projects, depending upon the size of the project, depending upon the need of the project, so it's all tailor-made to the specific project needs or the organization needs. Are you with me, both of you, on this? Any questions on this? I hope it's clear.
No questions.
Good. Ms. Claudia?
No questions.
Good. So the value of the project management is also, it's very important to understand. The project management contributes to the organization success. As I told you, that what enables or what drives the project, so it always contributes to the organization success. It could be getting to a new geographical area, or coming out with a solution for a problem, various reasons. So it's always related to the organization's success. Project is completed within the allotted time. As I told you that you will have a schedule. That's very, very important. Depending upon the whatever the schedule you determine, 6 months or 12 months or 3 months, whatever might be, that project has to be completed within the allotted time. Equally important is the budgeted cost. What has been allocated for the budget, for the amount that is allocated for the project, that has to be met. Or at the proper performance or the specific level, that's specification level. This is also very important. You put a standard for that, or you put a particular performance level, and you need to complete that. Equally important is it has to be accepted by your customer, by your sponsor, or the user. Am I right? If the customer does not accept, then the project is not completed or it's not successful. Your sponsor, for example, he has to accept this project is completed within the budget, within the schedule line, within the scope. This is all very important. And with minimally agreed upon scope changes. I see there's not a single project where sometimes the changes doesn't happen. Changes always is a part of the projects. So, but it has to be a minimal agreed changes. We'll discuss about the change, which is very, very important, the change request and how a change request should be dealt with. We'll discuss in detail when we get into the scope and other areas. Without disturbing the main workflow of the organization. This is also very important. Any project you undertake in an organization, there are already the organization is doing well or already doing many other things, and a new project in no way should affect the performance, or in no way it should affect the culture, or no way it should affect the organization in any way. For example, if an organization is already doing, as I told you, by doing a new project, by taking up a new project, if all your the finance thing is rooted to that, at the cost of the existing operations, then what happens? You'll have problems, am I right? You agree with me, no? Your working capital gets affected, isn't it? You agree, Mr. Raybon?
Yeah, I agree.
So the main activity in no way should be affected when you take up a new project. The flow of the organization, workflow, it has to keep continuing and without changing the corporate culture. This is also very important. I want to give an example. In India, you heard about Tata organization in Indian market by any chance? Tata, you heard? Ms. Claudia? TCS is a...
Which?
Sorry,
which Indian? You said Indian?
Indian company, TCS, you've heard? Tata Consumer Service, Tata, TCS?
No,
heard?
I didn't hear of it.
Okay. It's a software company. It's a part of that. There is an organization called Tata. It's about, they have more than 100. They are in business, is a 150 years old company. They are there, for example, in salt to software. You name anything, they are there. Salt to software, that's what they say, in fact, they are in multi-business thing. But that organization never do any business with only two things they don't touch. Otherwise, they are there in aircraft, they are there in building, they are in automobile industry, they are in software industry. They are in everywhere, but they don't do any business if it is a liquor or if it is tobacco. Anything related to tobacco or liquor, that company never do any business. So that is the culture of the organization. Mr. Ebon, got it? What I'm trying to say that. So the changing the corporate culture, this is also very important. Any project you undertake, you should not affect the cultural, your ethos, your beliefs of the organization. It has to be unique efforts to require innovative thinking and advanced planning, because the success of any project will be always the planning. Then while similar efforts may have taken in the past, situational environment and legal, regulatory and technical changes require a unique approach. This is very, very important. The legal aspects, the regulatory aspects and the technical changes requires a different and always a unique approach. These are all some of the values of the project management. So the basic thing is any project has to be completed within the allocated time. It has to be completed within the allocated budget. The performance specification level it has to meet, and the customer and sponsor has to accept the project in total. And there should be minimum scope changes without disturbing the main work of the organization. In no way it should affect the organization culture, and it should be always something unique. These are all the values of the project management. Now let's try to understand the role of a project manager. This is also very important, the role of a project manager. He has the single most important position in a project and has the overall responsibility for its success. This position comes with tremendous responsibility and accountability and ownership and authority. That's very important to understand the role of a project manager. He has the full responsibility and accountability for the project. I'm sure, Mr. Raban, you will agree with that. You will be held responsible for any failure or success. Am I right? Since you handle so many projects?
Yes.
Am I right? So ultimately, you are responsible. It applies lessons learned from the recent projects. Suppose if you have done similar projects, I'm sure being in architecture, whatever the earlier projects, probably some of the lessons you learned, you try to implement that here. It also defines the project roles and responsibilities. It leads the project planning activities because you are the one who are involved in planning, performs project tracking and communication, project status as your 90% of the work. Mr. Reban, you'll agree with that. In the project environment, is you spend time on communication. Don't you agree that you are dealing with people? Most of the time you spend on reaching the stakeholders, talking to them, communicating the various project progress. That's what you do, am I right, Mr. Raybon?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you do. And Ms. Claudia also, I'm sure with your experience, that's what they do in most of the project communication.
Communication is the most important.
Most important. And 90% of the project manager's time spent on communication. How you reach your stakeholders, what type of communication you need to send. Probably we'll discuss in detail when we come to that knowledge area. It manages project priorities because each project will have certain priorities. So you also, as a project manager, you need to manage those priorities. It performs risk and issues management. Every project will have some risk, will have some issues, and you need to keep on addressing those issues. You need to keep on tackling those issues. In fact, a good or efficient project manager is one who does these things many times proactively without anticipating those issues in the decision. Then it becomes proactive. Then that drives the decision making because there are lots of decisions to be taken during the project environment, and you are the one who drives the decisions. It promotes the client involvement because ultimately any project success depends upon your client acceptance. Am I right? So you need to promote the client involvement all the time so that they are in confidence, they have the trust on what you're doing. It encourages and supports escalations. This is also important, particularly the issues. Suppose your team members does not tell you the problem, he does not escalate the issue. Then what happens? If you cannot solve that issue in the beginning, then it becomes a bigger issue at the end. Am I right, Mr. Raybon? Have you experienced such things in your projects where an issue is suppressed in the beginning and it becomes a very big after some time? Have you experienced it? Mr. Raybon, can you give an example if you have?
Yes, I have experienced some of that.
Can you recall one or two instances?
Right off the top of my head, I don't recall anything.
Right at this moment?
Right.
Okay. Many times what happens, the smaller issues, if they're not addressed in the beginning, it can become a major issue at a later stage. I'll give you one thing. For example, among your team members that are working, one of the team members, let's say that he's a bit unhappy on certain things, which you can make out from his body language. You can make out, for example, with his behavior or his involvement. you know that that guy is not putting some efforts. Suppose let's say that you start ignoring that, then what happens? Tomorrow he may take a decision to leave in between. Am I right? That can happen, isn't it? So it's important that you escalate certain things and you talk to him, you address him in the beginning itself, so that in case if he's not happy, try to address those issues and sort it out so that he can be fully get motivated. Yeah, you agree with me on such instances, Mr. Eva? Right?
Yes, I do agree with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Ms. Claudia, are you with me or you're busy or something? Ms. Claudia? Are you there?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Have you experienced such thing? Can I ask you that any issues that, for example, in your team, in the beginning, though you don't take an action and it becomes a major issue after some time? Have you come across
It's
any?
mostly on communication issues. If
Uh-huh.
something is not communicated early enough, it
Yeah.
becomes an issue later.
Yeah, it can
Or somebody doing double work because
Yeah.
they're working on something that somebody else is working on. So then
Okay.
it becomes an issue.
Yeah, absolutely right. So it's important that you need to address in the beginning itself. Suppose if you address it in the beginning, then you'll be able to sort it out in the beginning, and until it become a major issue. Right. Then enforce effective change control. I'll discuss with you probably in the scope knowledge area. The effective change control is very, very important. And mentor project members. This is also important because you are the guiding force. You are the one who is responsible, accountable for the success of the project. So you need to keep on mentoring your team members, project members. You need to guide them. You need to take their hand, for example, and take them forward. So that's called the mentoring the project manager, the members. So these are the role of a project manager. Are we clear? Any questions on this?
No questions.
No question. Ms. Claudia, any clarifications, or are we clear about this role of a project
Yes, no
manager?
questions.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Good. That's good. Because once you are clear about these things, then it will be easy for us to understand the processes and how the project manager is important, in its day-to-day function, so that it will be easy to understand that. So the roles of a project manager in the PMBOK Guide 6, the agile and adaptive practices and minimizes the role of a project manager as a controller. Both of you are familiar with agile concepts, I'm sure. In fact, am I right? That is the thing which is happening. Agile concepts, Mr. Raymond, Ms. Claudia.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, you're not very familiar. Okay, Mr. Raymond. Raymond.
Could you repeat the question?
These agile concepts, are you familiar with that, Mr. Raymond?
No, I'm not familiar with that either.
You're not familiar. Okay, we'll discuss that. Basically, the agile and adaptive. Agile is an iterative process. It is an adaptive practices. That's what has been added in the PMBOK Guide 6. In the agile environment, your scope is not clear. For example, earlier used to happen in a predictive environment, predictive life cycle, and adaptive life cycle. In a predictive life cycle, what happens, your scope is very, very clear. What you are going to do, everything is very clear in the beginning itself. Whereas in the agile thing, is a predictive environment. That means it is an iterative thing. You do some work, you get the feedback from your customer, then again, you correct it, you take action, and you move forward. That is the agile or adaptive practice. That means getting the feedback from your customer or from your stakeholders or from your team members and move forward. So that is the iterative or agile principle or adaptive practices. So here what happens earlier, the role of a project manager, you used to control your project team members. Okay, whatever you say, they used to follow. But here what happens in this agile environment, it becomes a collaborative. That means you are no longer with an, for example, just keep on guiding them. You get the feedback, you're also part of the team and take the projects along, in fact. So here the responsibility of the mentoring, or monitoring and managing, particularly around risk, stakeholders, and communications, you become like a servant leadership. Here, that means you are also part of the team. As it is, you are a part of a team, but here you get the feedback, take action, and move forward. I'll give an example for this agile principle. One more thing. You are familiar with the metro projects, digging the metro projects. You are familiar, both of you, that railway projects, metro trains, Mr. Raymond and Ms. Claudia.
I am familiar with a little bit with the rail projects.
You're fine. Rail projects.
Not much for my side.
Not much. You see, in fact, in the rail project, let's say in New York City, you are in the Washington City, you have a rail project to the metro rails, in fact. Okay, you call them as metro trains, am I right? Okay, within the city which operates. There are in certain areas, it is above the ground. The track is above the ground, and in certain areas, it is below the ground, am I right? It's called the tube railway or whatever it is. Under the water or under the ground, am I right? I'm sure both of you are familiar, in fact, isn't it? So in the above the ground, that means, it is a predictive. You know that how much soil is there, how deep is it. In fact, you are very, very clear about those things. So it will become a predictive cycle there. In fact, that means you know exactly how much you need to dig in fact, how deep it has to go, what is the soil strength, like that. Whereas when you do under the ground, it becomes an iterative because you are not familiar or you don't know. After for example, after 10 feet, what will be there? Will it be a rock? Will it be the mud, or what is it? So you need to dig, for example, 1 feet or about 5 feet, about 10 feet long. You do this, can you move forward? You get the feedback, then move forward. So it becomes an agile, it becomes a adaptive, or it becomes an incremental, in fact. That is the adaptive and predictive. Very simple to understand. In a predictive environment, your scope is clear, whereas when the scope is not clear, particularly in the present, the very complex projects, here, you need to have an adaptive approach. That means you work for some time, get the feedback, then do the corrections, and you move forward. These are all some of the difference, the agile and adaptive practices that is being widely used across the industry today. I'm sure even in your architecture, Mr. Raymond, I think it must be is like that. Am I right? It is an agile practice today. You do something, get the feedback, work on that, and then move forward. One of the example I can give that is the miniatures or the you've seen that miniatures models. Am I right? You would have seen that, even the building blocks, or when you select a home, they would have one model block or a model flat. You would have experienced it, am I right? That means it is a miniature. That means you go and get the feedback, and any corrections you need to be done. They will work on that, and they give you feedback, and again you do that. It's like, that's the agile principle, adaptive practices. That minimizes today the role of a PM as a controller. That because you become a member of the team, you become a participative in all those decision making, and then take an action. So the PMI Talent Triangle, I explained to you very clearly the strategic and business management, which is the foundation that is very, very important. And you need to have the technical project management. Then you need to have the leadership, which is very important for the success of the project. Now let's try to understand a little bit the technical skills. Strategic and business management, as I explained to you, need to have the good business acumen. You need to know that the basic management principles. You need to have a vision. You should align with your organization strategic alignment. These are all the strategic and business management. The leadership, I'm sure both of you are very familiar. Motivate and guide teams. Communications is the part of that. Facilitation. Do you do facilitation in your place, Mr. Raymond?
Yes.
Yeah, you do that. I'm sure Ms. Claudia also must be doing a lot of facilitation. All right, you're familiar. The conflict resolution. You heard about conflict resolution? Both of you? Conflict resolution?
Yes.
I'm sure. Ms. Claudia?
Kind of. We have different type of things, but I don't know if it's the same type that they're talking about.
Yeah, please tell me what you know. That's no problem. That is right. Yeah.
Well, we have some training. We call it LEAP, and about the conflicts and how to avoid conflicts and things like that. But they don't call it the same way. It's like something that banks do
Okay.
with their employees.
Oh, okay. I will try to understand it a little more detail from the PMI perspective. You see, when people are there, when team members are there, conflicts are bound to be there, am I right? Even in a personal life, even at our home also, many times we do have certain conflicts, am I right? When people are involved, when 2 or more people are involved, definitely there will be conflicts. Now, thing is that how do you solve these conflicts? We'll try to understand what are the reasons for conflicts in the project management. One could be, I will explain to you probably in our schedule knowledge area a little more detail, or the resource management. Resource, for example, your priorities in the project, it can become a conflict, isn't it? Suppose you agreed for a 6-month schedule, and suddenly your promoters or the customers wants in 5 months or 5 months, the project needs to be completed, then it will become a conflict among the team members, isn't it? You agree with me on that? So the resources, the constraint, or the schedule. Suppose there are 10 people are working, and all of a sudden you withdraw one resources, and you ask the 9 members to do the project. I'm sure the conflict will arise. You agree with me, Mr. Raymond, on that? The conflict.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's right. So these conflicts are bound to happen. So how do we solve those problems? There is a detailed discussion. I will touch upon that in detail when we move into the resource management. But briefly to tell you that there are 5 techniques. The best techniques in handling a conflict is always a collaborative or a confrontation or problem solving, what is called. That means you take that person, whoever is there, into confidence. Take one-on-one, you talk to him in direct or you talk to him personally and try to sort out whatever misunderstanding or whatever problem is there. That is the best way of solving a problem. Am I right? You agree, isn't it? The best, that is, it becomes a win-win situation. That means the aggrieved party or the team member who is had these conflicts, problems, you talk to them directly and sort it out. It's a collaborative. You take them into confidence and solve the problems. Sometimes in the team management, sometimes you need to have a director force. That means you need to use your authority, use your power to solve a problem. That is another way of solving a problem. It's a force or direct. Here, what can happen is when you force your decision on somebody, what can happen is that it can become a win-lose situation. Am I right? You may win, you may get your things done, but the person who does it may not do with full happiness. Am I right? Have you experienced it, Mr. Raymond, like this anytime in your working life?
Yes.
You must have experienced. Ms. Claudia, have you experienced it?
Yes.
You would have experienced. Okay. So
Yes.
that is called either force or a direct. That means you may win, you may get your job done, but you will not have the confidence or you will not have the trust of the other person. It is called force or direct. So the best approach is the collaborative, or it is also confrontation, or it's also called problem solving. That is the best way of solving the problem. There are 3 other things. Of course, I will show you the slide when it comes to the problem, the process management or the resource management. There are 3, like, you avoid a problem so that, that is a lose-lose proposition. You compromise on a problem, that again, it will become a lose-lose proposition, and you reconcile the problem, sometimes it will become a lose-lose proposition. So the best way of handling the problem is collaboration, or take them into confidence, or force a direct. Emotional intelligence. You heard about emotional intelligence, Mr. Raymond? Emotional intelligence.
I'm not familiar with that one.
You're not, okay. And Ms. Claudia, are you familiar with emotional intelligence?
I'm not sure about it.
You're not sure. Emotional intelligence is basically, since you're dealing with people, everybody has got emotions, am I right? Because they're all, basically, we are all human beings. All human beings have got emotions, am I right? You have an emotion, same way the team members also have an emotions. So emotional intelligence is understanding your team members, their problems, and you respond to that. For example, one of your team member comes to you with a bad mood or some personal problem, and you can make out from his body language that he's not keeping well or he has got something problem going on. Then you need to know, for example, handle that situation in a different way. Emotional intelligence is also your interpersonal skills, your how you communicate with them, how you understand them. It is having an empathy about your team member. That is emotional intelligence. Because being a good leader, it's important to understand your team members well, their psyches, their working method, or their, so then only you'll be able to handle them. It's always a very, very big subject, emotional intelligence. Probably I can run a one-day program on that, but emotional intelligence is basically understanding what people and understanding their, mood and respond to them accordingly. Critical thinking, you have heard about critical thinking, both of you. What is critical thinking?
It's making choices by thinking about the situation.
Okay. Making choices about a situation. Claudia, you want to add something to that? Critical thinking.
Logic thinking of
Absolutely
a
right.
situation.
Excellent. Very good. You said it very correctly. Critical thinking is nothing but logical thinking. It's a rational thinking. That means you don't accept anything on the face of it. You try to look at it, why it has happened, how it has happened, what context it has happened. So critical thinking is your putting your analysis on everything. In fact, that is critical thinking. Suppose, Mr. Raymond, that one of your team member comes and tells you something. You don't accept it on the face of it. You try to analyze why is he telling like this. Suppose he says that the schedule is going 1 week behind. Then what you do, you try to put the rationale. Why it is going slowly? Is it because of lack of resources, or is it because of any other reason that why it is going on? So critical thinking is, as Ms. Claudia rightly said, it is your logical thinking or your rational thinking behind that. So you put all those questions: why, how it has happened, why it has happened, who is responsible for that, or like that. So that will help you to make your decision much more clearly. Am I clear on this? Leadership, some of these things. I'm sure conflict resolution and emotional intelligence and critical thinking. Are we clear on that, Mr. Raymond?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Okay, that's nice. Great. So how are you feeling so far? It's almost close to 2 hours now. How is it going? You're happy about it? The audio is good? My communication is proper? You're understanding clearly? Is there any issues?
I'm good so far.
You're good. Because I want
I'm
to
really
make good. I want to make this as participative and as interactive as possible, so that all the three, for example, we should enjoy these sessions because the project, this PMP, sometimes this content, it is a very serious subject. Am I right? You agree with me, both of you, in fact. Am I right? There is a lot of, it's quite a serious subject. So we need to make it a little more enjoyable by interacting, by sharing your experiences. So at the end of the thing, I want both of you should pass this examination with about target. That's what I want. Am I right? Both of you should pass more than 85% or above the target. And we should enjoy these sessions. It should not become boring, or it should not become dull, or I should not keep talking so that, it becomes boring for you. You agree with me on this, Mr. Raymond and Ms. Claudia?
We're good.
yes.
That's good. So that all of us can enjoy these sessions. So at the end of the day, you'll be able to retain what has been discussed. So that will help you to take it forward. Okay. Now it's almost close to 2 hours. Can we take a break now, so that for about 20 to 30
Yeah, that
minutes?
sounds good.
That sounds
Yes.
good. How about 30 minutes? We'll take a break, Mr. Raymond.
30 minutes, you said?
Yeah.
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah. So it's 9:23, probably close to. Okay. There. What time is your time now? There. Exact time.
It's almost 12 o'clock.
12:30. We'll meet there. Okay. 12:30.
12:30 is good.
Okay.
It's good.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. We'll catch up at 12:30. Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Hello, are you back, Mr. Raymond, Ms. Claudia?
I am here.
Oh, good, great. Okay. Ms. Claudia, are you back? We'll just wait for a couple of minutes.
Sounds good.
Yes. Till she comes, when are you planning to take exam, Mr. Raymond?
It'll probably be mid to late April, hopefully.
Oh, that's great. Mid-April, that's great. Really, I appreciate it.
I want to do it right after this so that I'm still familiar with some of the information.
Oh, okay, okay, that's good. Yeah. I wanted to check with you. Normally, each day, this session goes for 4 hours, okay? With about half an hour break in between so that, we can re-equip itself and so this content we can understand a little more clearly, the break. So that means, this, are you okay with this 4 hours or you want to further extend for another 1 hour for you?
Either way, it doesn't matter to me.
It doesn't matter to you.
No, I'm easy going.
Okay, that's good. Okay. So, I think Claudia may not come, so continue the session. Okay, fine. Yeah, I think she may not. She was telling that she has come work, so I don't know whether she'll be able to join again. Okay. So we will continue, Mr. Raymond. So let's see, one more 1 hour extension probably we can do for about 5 hours today, and like that, so that we can try to complete as well as possible for you. That's okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, that's good. Okay. So on this, I hope we are very clear about the technical skills and the leadership, motivation, and guide teams, some soft skills. I think we are very clear. So let's move on. So why do projects fail, Mr. Raymond? According to you, what's your experience? Why do the project fails?
Mainly lack of communications, but also someone doesn't have the appropriate skills.
Okay.
Needed. Scope creep.
Scope
creep.
There's
a whole bunch of stuff in there that could happen.
Oh, that's a PMI terminology. You grasped it. Scope creep. That's great. I really appreciate you for that. Okay, good. Okay. That means you already have all the requirement of a project PMP certified. That's great. You should pass this examination very easily. I'm sure about it.
I'm hoping.
Yeah, definitely you will pass through. With so much of 32 years of experience plus, I'm sure it should be a cakewalk for you. That's great.
A lot of it's common sense too.
Yeah, absolutely right. As I was telling you that when I was working in the company, I didn't have the even PMP definition. I didn't know. So actually, and I passed it. For example, after my retirement at the age of 61, I took it, and I sat first time in front of a computer for 4 hours, and somehow I passed it. So
yeah.
if you have the passion and if you have the commitment, I'm sure you should be able to do that. And all these things, I think in your working place experience, you must have already done all these things, right? There is nothing new for you. Either initiating process or the planning process or execution process. You must already done all these things, am I right? In hundreds of projects.
Yeah, I've done a lot of it. It's just making sure that I'm doing it in the right process and making sure that everybody's on the same page.
Same page, yeah. It's only probably that some of the terminologies or the terms you have to use in a different way. But probably once you become a PMP certified, you know exactly what to be used, when to use, like that. That will be absolutely right. That process, and you will understand the process. That's right. So why the project fail is, as I said, could be a communication. It requires ambiguous, misunderstood, or incorrect communication. Controlling cost and schedule could be another problem. The scope creep, you clearly mentioned it. And sponsor not actively involved in the project strategy and direction. This happens very many times. The project sponsor or who funds the project, sometimes he deviates his attention, they deviate their funds. There's another reason why the project fails. And project plan is non-existent, out of date, or incomplete, or poorly constructed. It will be another reason. On planning, they say, Mr. Raymond, you must be very familiar with that phrase. A plan may fail, but you should never fail to plan. You've heard about that?
I haven't heard that one.
Plan may fail. It can happen, but you should never fail to plan. That's what they say.
Hmm.
Okay. So you should always plan. Plan sometimes may fail, but you should never fail to plan. That's a very,
Right.
very important thing. In fact, you should always plan. So project plan is non-existent, out of date, or poorly constructed. Frequent change of assigned project managers could be another reason. We have seen the number of projects that a project manager will start and in between he'll leave and go. So there will not be any continuity for that, and that could be another reason. And no clear definition of benefits and the deliverables that will produce them. Because if you're not very clear what is the objective, what is the outcome of the project, then there could be another reason why the project can fail. Poor or no change control. We'll discuss about that. This change control is so important, and inappropriate or insufficient skills. If the people, hello, so sometimes, hello, Ms. Claudia, are you joining? Hello?
Yes, sorry for the delay.
Oh, you joined, is it? Oh, good. Okay.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Sorry, that's right. So, because I got a message that you may not join, we can put off your video if you want. Video is not required. We are not using the video. Yeah. Oh, are you audible?
Yes, I'm trying to get rid of the video. I'm having a hard time on that.
There is one video thing. You just mute it.
I know, I am trying.
Yeah, don't start the video. Yes, right. Yeah.
It came up automatically.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You got it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, sometimes it happens. Even I struggle. Don't worry about that. Okay. So I just, Ms. Claudia, before he came, you were just discussing. Mr. Raymond wants to take the examination mid of April. When are you planning to take? What's your plan?
I'm not sure, depending when I'm clear to take the test.
Okay, good. Okay. Don't hurry up. That's what I would suggest. Let's complete these sessions, whatever 7 or 8 sessions. Then after doing that, you read the book. You read that PMI book. You download it and reading it. Start reading that. Now also you can start. Probably once you become a PMI member, I would request both of you to become a member as early as possible. Next week, is it possible for both of you?
Yes, I was actually planning to become a member a long time ago, but
Yeah.
I did not know.
Yeah. Now.
Well, many friends suggested to just, just read the book and take the test, but I didn't know about the hours.
No, if you become a member, because both way, as I explained, even if you don't become a member, you will have to pay $555 for the examination. Okay. So if you become a member, you will be paying almost same or slightly few dollars less or more. So I would suggest better both of you should become a member as early as possible, today, tomorrow, or next week. Pay that $129 so that
definitely,
you can.
Yes.
Yeah,
definitely makes sense becoming a member.
Member, yeah. Because you will get that immediately. You can download that PMI book, 6th chapter, and you can start reading that book. Okay, as I told you that it is a 900-page book. It's a very, very, and sometimes you get bored also to read. But I would suggest each day, you can plan around 50 pages a day so that you can complete. And by end of the session, I'll be sending you the slides. So you go through the slides about 3 to 4 times and read that book once or twice and attend around 7 to 8 mock examinations. And I'm sure you'll be ready for the examination. Okay. That's how the process is going to be. Okay.
Are you guys giving pre-examinations?
Yeah, we'll give you that pre-examination, mock examinations. I'll send you the link so that you can attempt those mock exams, and we will review it also. I will be there, online. We can discuss why you selected a particular answer or what is the right reason. We'll go through that mock examination questions. We'll go through those answers so that you will understand better. And I want you to score at least 75% minimum in those mock examination. Once you do that, you'll be ready to take the examination. Okay. So let's go step by step. What I would request is both of you to become the PMI members early part of next week or this week, whatever is. What is convenient for you, Mr. Raymond?
Yeah, I'll join within a week.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. So once you do that, you download the book, and so that you can start reading that book. You see, there are so many books available in PMP to read. But I would urge you to focus one or two main things. One is this PMI, the 6th book, PMBOK guide. That's very important because your examination is based on that. Second thing is you go through this content at mock examinations so that you will be a lot more focused. You'll be there on that. And there are so many video tubes you can watch, and whenever you get some time, you can watch those videos. So that will also help you to improve or enhance your understanding of the subject. Is it fine? Okay. Does it sound good?
Perfect.
Okay, good. Claudia, does it okay for you?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we were just discussing, according to you, Miss Claudia, why do you think the project fails? What's your general thinking about? Why do you think project doesn't succeed?
Misunderstanding or
Yeah.
Going over like doing the wrong things.
Correct.
Trying to skip steps.
Okay.
There could be different reasons. Not reaching the results that were necessary.
Yeah.
Not having the people that actually have the knowledge.
Great. That's right. Yeah,
I think there could be lots of reasons.
Lots of reasons. So some of the reasons have been listed here. If these requirements are ambiguous, that means it's not very clear, it's not understood properly, it's incorrect. The cost when it goes up or the schedule it goes up. For example, if a project, you have a current project of 6 months, by any reason it goes up to 12 months or 18 months, then it will lose its significance of the project, and the project will fail. Scope creep. Mr. Raymond was clearly telling that scope creep is nothing but adding additional requirements by the customer. You agree certain things in the beginning, then during the mid of the thing, the customer will say that you please give me that, you give me that. So it's all scope creep. If that happens, again, the project can fail. And your promoter, the sponsor, they say that, if they are not involved in the project strategy or direction, or if they withdraw funds, that could be another reason. And out of date or incomplete or poorly structured the plan. I was telling Mr. Raymond, Ms. Claudia, that the plan, you heard about this phrase, a plan may fail, but you should never fail to plan. You have heard about this anytime?
No, I don't think a word, but it sounds logical.
It's because it's very thing, the plan may fail, but you should never fail to plan. That's what they say, that everything should be planned. Sometimes plan may succeed, may not fail, may not succeed, but you should never fail to plan. That's very important. Frequent changes of assigned project managers. There's somebody start and in between he leaves and go. That could be another reason. Then whose responsibility relationship are not clearly defined in writing. This is also there. Lack of understanding, lack of clarity by the team members, no clear definition of the benefits of the deliverables, and poor or no change control, inappropriate or insufficient skills. Like Ms. Claudia were mentioning, that the people, if they're not capable of doing certain things and if they're hired as the project team members, that could be another reason. These are all some of the various reasons that why a project can fail. Now let's try to understand a little bit portfolio, programs, and projects. Mr. Raymond, are you familiar with these terminologies? Portfolio, programs, and projects?
Programs and projects I'm pretty familiar with. Portfolios are not.
Portfolios are not. Ms. Claudia, are you familiar with portfolio, programs, and projects?
Yes.
Yeah, good, great. I just gave an example then so that we can understand that. Let's say General Motors is a company, very famous company in US who are in automobile industry, am I right? So the General Motors, there's at the strategic level, General Motors have to be in the automobile industry. They want to achieve 25% market share in US, let's say. So that is the portfolio that at the strategic level, the General Motors has to wants to achieve 25% market share in US market. I'm just giving an example. It could be Toyota or it could be General Motors. So to do that, the General Motors will have portfolio of cars. They will have cars, they will have trucks, and they will have other things, in fact. Okay, buses, let's say, in fact. So General Motors will have cars, they will have trucks, they will have buses to achieve the strategic goal of 25% growth or market share or contribute in the US market. So that is the portfolio. Now to achieve that, the programs, under the cars, for example, General Motors will have a petrol variant, will have a diesel variant, or it could be a hybrid variant, in fact. They all come under programs to achieve the strategic objective of General Motors or in the automobile industry. Yeah, are you clear now? Portfolio under which you will have the programs to achieve the strategic objective of the organization. Under this, for example, under diesel variant or the petrol variant, you will have different, it will have a SUV you may have, you will have a passenger car, you will have other type of variants. There are all the various projects which supports the program of the organization to achieve the strategic objective of the organization. Does it make sense? Are you clear now with that?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
how the portfolio will be always, it will be centralized, it will be at the strategic level. A portfolio may consist of portfolios, projects, and programs. The components may or may not be interdependent. It may not be, in fact. Whereas the projects in a program have a common deliverable or capability, projects with loose association are called portfolio of the project. Some of them, it's not intertwined, loose association. So the program management is basically a centralized, coordinated management of a program to achieve the program's strategic objectives and benefits. As I gave you the example of General Motors, the various programs they undertake, it will help them to achieve the strategic objective and the benefits of the organization. So the definition of program management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to a program to meet the program requirement and in order to obtain benefits and control not available by managing projects individually. In fact, for example, as I told you that if the General Motors does not have all these three put together, if they handle individually only for cars probably, then it may not be able to achieve the strategic benefits or to get the required benefits. So it has to be always to meet the program requirements in order to obtain the benefits and controls not available by managing the projects individually. A program is defined as a group of related projects or sub-programs and programs activities managed in a coordinated way to obtain the benefits not available managing them individually. If only a hybrid project is managed or if it only the diesel variant managed, then it may not achieve the overall objectives or it may not give the required benefits. That is the program management. So the features of program management is for a program of projects to be classified as a program, there must be some value added in managing them together. As I told you that unless all these variants of diesel, petrol, or the hybrid all put together, unless it is managed, then it may not give the required benefit. A project need not belong to a program or a program will always have projects. So under the program, there will be projects. But sometimes a project can be taken up even without involving the program, or it can be an independent altogether. In fact, that can happen. So a program is designed to deliver some strategic benefits of the organization, and the benefits could be tangible, for example, growing the operating margin, or intangible, improving the morale of the team, even for the reputation of the organization. There could be some intangible benefits by doing a program. community may appreciate it. I think in US there are several projects like that, where your community, there are, for example, you take cancer project. There are so many projects which the community appreciates. These are all intangible. You cannot put a value to those things. Am I right, Mr. Raymond? That you cannot put a value, but it gives a tremendous amount of intangible benefit for the organization. You take, for example, Bill Gates. Bill Gates, both of you know that, he makes so much of donations. He's a big philanthropist. Am I right? You know about it, that he gives so much of money for the social cause. So the amount of intangible benefit the organization gets because of that is worldwide so famous. You cannot put a value for those things, all the benefits that people do get out of that. A project manager focuses on fulfilling the requirements of a project, whereas the program manager focuses on delivering the benefits of the organization. Is it very clear? Since the program is a combination of these various things together, so the program manager always focuses what the organization benefits, the delivery. That's very important. Any questions on this so far on the portfolio, program, and project? Is it clear?
No, we're good.
You are clear about it, Mr. Raymond? Yeah. Because
yes.
there might be a question, one or two questions on the program and portfolio management. So I wanted to understand. Few more slides are there in case if you have any ambiguity or anything, we'll try to clarify them. So a definition of a portfolio is as follows. A portfolio, as I told you, it's a collection of projects, programs, sub-portfolios, and operations. In portfolio, once the project is achieved, there could be operation also. For example, General Motors, they do these projects. They find a hybrid car. They also do, for example, a petrol variant or a diesel variant. It could be an SUV. It could be other things, in fact, sedan. But after doing that, they also undertake production, am I right? It comes under operations. So the portfolio will also have the operations. Projects and programs of a portfolio may not necessarily independent or directly related. This is important. It need not be necessarily independent. It can be like a portfolio can be based on the business objectives. As I gave you the example of General Motors, they have a particular business objective of achieving, let's say, 25% market share, or they want to grow this year 10% growth they want to have. So they will come out with the various programs to achieve that objective. So here is one more thing. A Japanese project can be portfolio where an IT company puts all its projects from Japan to give more focus and attention to its Japanese projects and grow its Japanese business. Similar projects can be managed as a program with a portfolio, and all banking projects will be managed as a banking programs. The various banking programs can be clubbed. So that is about the portfolio. So what is portfolio? How do you define the portfolio? Portfolio management refers to the centralized management of one or more portfolios to achieve the strategic objectives. For example, General Motors may have in the road transport, they may have a surface transport. If they have a surface transport, for example, they may have ships, they have other things, in fact, like that. So a centralized management of one or more portfolio also can have of achieving the strategic objectives. A portfolio management includes identifying, prioritizing, authorizing, managing, and controlling projects, programs, and other related work to achieve the business objectives. So please remember, portfolio management is always strategic. It is at the top level. It is at the management level. So under portfolio, you will have programs, sub-programs, sub-portfolios, and projects, and you may also have the operations. So that's about the portfolio management. So now let's try to understand a little bit the relationship between portfolios, programs, and projects. Here, it represents a portion of an organization overall strategy. Here you can see the portfolio will have sub-portfolios, you'll have programs and projects. And under sub-portfolios, you'll have programs, projects, and sub-programs, projects like this. And each organization, you will have some portfolio of different size of portfolio. It could be, in fact, different programs and different projects. Mr. Rahman, you have a portfolio in your organization? You have a portfolio?
Yes, we do.
You do have. Can you just tell me what sort of portfolio and programs you have, so that We can all understand.
Portfolio is more of a staff type situation, I believe. So you got your principals, you got your managers, you got your architects, you got your engineers. And it starts with the principal. He collects the project and information, and he shares it with the managers. Managers takes it to their.
No, that you're talking about this organogram chart or organization chart. That is. That's not the portfolio, in fact. The portfolio is your strategic business. For example, architecture. You being an architecture, I'm right.
Yep.
So in your organization, you have a portfolio. It could be a home projects. For example, it should be commercial projects. It should be a public utility projects. You have such projects?
Oh, so we, in our office we have hospital projects. We have university projects. We have
so
12 K through 12 projects, stuff like that.
Correct. So those are all your portfolios. Okay.
Yep.
So home project, for example, you have a home project. Under home project, probably you have independent houses, you may have flat system, you have multi-story buildings. These are all the programs under your home portfolio. Okay, you got it now?
Yes.
So under, for example, those programs, you will have various projects to achieve those programs. So that's how you can break it out. So portfolio is at the strategic level of your organization. You will have a different portfolios, like your home project could be one portfolio, your commercial project, and you said university project could be another portfolio. Am I right? So those are all the portfolios we have. Under those portfolios, you will have various programs, which you have those group of programs to achieve the overall business objective of the organization. I hope now it's very clear for you. Am I right?
Yes.
Good. Ms. Claudia, are you with me on that? Hello?
Yeah, sorry.
Is it clear?
I had somebody talking to me. I apologize.
Okay. So I just gave an example, Mr. Raymond. For example, in his company, he's being an architecture and he's the construction project. So they have a portfolio like the home projects, they have a commercial project, they got a university projects. They all will fall into the portfolios of the organization. So under those portfolio, under each home product, home portfolio, he'll have, for example, independent houses, he'll have a various flats together, like those are all the various programs they undertake to achieve the organization objective of the projects. So that's it comes under portfolio, it comes under programs, and to achieve that, you will have the various projects. So a portfolio represents a portion of an organization's overall strategy, and strategic goals are cascaded down to the lower levels and components, and a portfolio may contain programs, projects, and also other work. Now, I hope it's now very clear, because you can expect 1 or 2 questions on this. So I want you to understand this concept a little more clearly. Now let's come to the stakeholder. How do you define?
I apologize.
Yeah.
Now it's time for me to go, so I guess I'll watch the recorded one.
Okay.
I tried to look and see whatever I could, but now I have to go.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
I'll watch the recorded one for tonight.
Carry on. Okay. Thanks. Great. Have a nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a great day.
Thank you.
In case if you have
You
any
too.
questions, Ms. Claudia, you write it down, so that tomorrow you can ask me before you start or after during, so that I can clarify them.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Fine. See you tomorrow. Bye. Okay. Mr. Raymond, both of us will continue. Okay. That's right. Are you with me, Mr. Raymond?
Yeah, I am.
Good. So little bit of stakeholder. How do you define a stakeholder, Mr. Raymond, with your experience?
A stakeholder is going to be either your client or your owner. That would be one stakeholder. The other one would be your manager in charge. And it goes down the tree from there.
Okay. So one definition about stakeholder is an individual or a group or an organization who may affect or be affected by perceive itself to be affected by a decision, activity, or outcome of a project. That means who gets impacted or affected There's always all or stakeholders. You got it. In fact, it's a very wide thing. It could be internal stakeholders, it could be external stakeholders, your team members, your sponsors, your promoters, your customers, your government bodies, your regulatory bodies, your statutory bodies, the people who are going to use that project, all become stakeholders. So stakeholder subject, because the success of any project is how you deal with the stakeholders. So that's very, very important. So the project team, project manager, a project sponsor, PM office, customer, etc. are the stakeholders of the project. A project sponsor is one who gives a go-ahead for a project and provides the necessary resources to execute the project. Am I right? In your organization, your managing director or the owner of the company gives you a project. Am I right, Mr. Raymond?
The principals get the projects typically.
Yeah. So they are the project sponsors for these things. In fact, so they are the key stakeholders, or they are the important stakeholders. In fact. Now, I'll also give a small thing. For example, identification of stakeholder is very critical and important for the project. Let's say at home, how many children you have, Mr. Raymond, if you don't mind? How many kids you have?
I have no kids.
Oh, so sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Suppose
I'm the only stakeholder.
Okay, that's right. You will live with whom, Mark? But you will live with your parents? With whom you are living? You will live there.
Yeah.
Okay. So there, suppose some home, you go to a friend's party. Let's say, they're celebrating a birthday. Okay, so you go and meet your friend. Who all could be the stakeholders in a birthday party, Mr. Raymond, according to you?
For a birthday party, it would be the parents, the child.
Yeah, child. Okay.
The guest.
The guest. Okay. Okay.
I think that's it.
Anybody else? Stakeholders?
The person providing the money.
Money. Okay. Okay. Then. This can, for example, the guy who serves the food could be a stakeholder. Who does the decoration for the hall could be a stakeholder. Am I right? Or the cake. Who brings the cake is also a stakeholder. Am I right?
Yep.
Various stakeholder. Also, suppose you're living in a flat or you're staying in a house. Nearby house, people are also stakeholders. Am I right? You agree with me on that?
Yes.
Neighbors, because suppose in a birthday party you put loud music. Okay. You will be dancing it. It might be a disturbance for your neighbors. Am I right?
Right.
So they are also stakeholders. Why I'm giving you this example is in a project environment, it's very, very important to identify the stakeholders. And if you don't do the proper identification, they can create problems at a later stage. For example, your neighbor, if you are not informed them about the birthday party you're going to celebrate at home, and if you don't, suppose you may invite or you may not invite, that's a different thing, but at least you should inform them that you are going to have some music in the house in the evening. So if you don't, please don't feel bad. If you keep them informed, at least, they will be happy about. Am I right? You agree with me on that?
Correct.
Correct. If you don't inform, they can make an issue. You know that in the US, just make 911, they're making a disturbance. The people can become crazy. Am I right?
Yes.
It's like that. So identification of stakeholders is very, very critical for the project success. That's the reason I gave an example. People may not remember, neighbors, they may not be stakeholders. It's not like that. Because the sound you are going to generate when you are doing your birthday party can disturb them and they get impacted because of that. So that's the reason that they are also stakeholders. Hope I'm clear about that statement. Are you liking some of the examples I'm giving? Is it okay?
Yes, they're helpful.
It helps so that you understand these concepts a little more clearly. So how do we manage the stakeholders? Having understood the seriousness of a stakeholder, how do we manage? A key responsibility of a project manager is to manage stakeholders. Project manager has to take up specific activities for stakeholders management. So identifying the internal and external stakeholders is very important. As you told, as you clearly explained, the identifying the stakeholders at the beginning is essential. A stakeholder who is identified towards the end of the project may come up with a new requirement at the stage, and incorporating it can be risky. For example, if a neighbor, if you don't inform, if you don't take them into confidence, he can create problem at a later stage. Determining a stakeholder requirement, you should understand that what is the requirement of each of those stakeholders must be clearly identified. It is the job of the project manager to get them right, doing a proper stakeholders requirement analysis. Take a birthday party example, for example, you take, when your friends, when they come, what is the requirement? They should have a good parking place. Am I right? When they come with the vehicles, am I right? Is it clear on that?
Correct.
Ahmed, when they come, they should provide them good seating arrangements. And for example, if elderly people are coming, you should provide them a wheelchair for them, for their mobility. So understanding the requirement is very, very important while developing the project or engaging the stakeholders. Then determining the stakeholders' expectation, unstated stakeholder expectation need to be clarified to see if it needs to be a project requirement. Because certain times, the stakeholders may not express it. So you need to ask question, you need to dig in the interest of the project. What all you should know from the stakeholders, you should try to extract that. You should try to get that information very clearly. Then the communication with the stakeholder. The project manager, as a part of stakeholder analysis, should focus on communicating with them regularly to keep stakeholders involved in the project. As I told you that 90% of the time, a project manager spends on communicating with the stakeholders. I think in your experience, I think you must be doing the same thing, Mr. Raymond?
Yes.
You must be doing either on telephone, or either on one-to-one, or on meetings. I think 90% of our time we normally spend on communicating with the stakeholder. It's such an important subject. So understand the practices of the stakeholders management to answer scenario-based questions. So there will be at least 1 or 2 questions of the stakeholders management. There will, at the end of this knowledge area, you will have a stakeholders management itself. We will study that knowledge area. So what are the key takeaways so far? Project management is the application of knowledge, skills, and tools and techniques applied to a project activities to meet the project requirements. Project manager has to integrate various project aspects like the people, stakeholders, risk communication, and procurements with the project's constraints. And the project differ from operations in that they are temporary and not repetitive. As I told you, that project is always a temporary endeavor with a definite beginning and end to create a unique product, service, or a result. The programs encapsulate multiple projects to achieve the objectives that are not possible by managing projects individually. I gave the example of General Motors. Our portfolios are strategically aligned efforts to combining programs, projects, and operational efforts in the pursuit of organization objectives. So this completes the first introduction chapter. Any questions, Mr.
No questions.
No questions? Yeah, okay, good. So shall we take it forward? We'll continue the professional and social responsibility. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. How far is your office from your home? How long you traveled?
20 minutes.
Okay, that's great, in fact. So don't spend much time on the road and the traffic, I say. Okay.
Yeah. A few years ago, I was 40 minutes away. So.
Okay. How big your organization? How many people are there, Mr. Raymond?
There's about 450 people.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Which is your corporate office? You're based in New York, or?
We have 7 to 8 offices in New York, and then we have a couple down in Georgia and North Carolina, South Carolina.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Your offices in California side or the other side, Central America, Western America? No.
We're on the East Coast mainly.
Oh, you're in mainly East Coast. Okay. Oh, that's good. And who are your competitive people who operates in your industry?
Who are the competition?
Yeah.
There's a couple of architectural firms, Labella and SWBR. They're all about the same size.
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing all the same work. So,
Same market. Okay. What's your company's name, full name? There?
pardon?
Your organization name?
The company I work for?
Yeah, company you work for?
It's CPL, but it's Clark Patterson Lee.
CPL, is it? CPL.
CPL.
Okay, CPL. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, okay. It's an MNC, multinational company, or it's a belongs to a single owner, or it's
It's basically employee owned.
employee. Oh, okay.
So everybody becomes a stakeholder.
Oh, you become the stakeholder. That's great.
Yep.
That's good. And all through you are in the same company, your organization, last 32 years? Or you changed?
Yes.
Oh, I see. That's really great. Oh, 32 years, long association. I must really appreciate Mr.
Right.
Because today, forget about 32 years. Even 3 years in a company is a big thing, am I right?
Right.
They keep moving at least once in 2 years or once in 3 years. And they do say in many places that if you stick to a company more than 10 years, then there is something wrong with you or with the company, they say. But I really appreciate, in fact, this is the old school of thoughts that many of those, even earlier days, once you join a company, you retire from that company, in fact.
That's more old school.
More old school. And
Yeah.
that shows that how good the company is, how your people are taking care of you, and how you are also important, cog in the company's success. Am I right? Both sides.
Right.
You must appreciate your management, and you must appreciate you also for sticking to the organization for such a long time. You would have seen lot and lots of difficulties. Am I right? In the company,
Difficulties and goodness and all kinds of stuff.
all kinds of things. Yeah, both good and bad and ugly. Probably you would have experienced.
The word ugly comes in once in a while.
That's right. So that's great. I really appreciate. In fact, I also believe in the same old school of thoughts. There is no point in changing frequently. If you are good, for example, why not you stick to that organization? If the company is good, if they're taking care of you, and if your growth is assured, why not? Am I right? So it's
Right. Yep.
That's great. Appreciate my sincere appreciation to you and to your organization also. That's great.
Good. Thank you.
So let's try to understand a bit of professional and social responsibility. I'm sure that you being a veteran, you can understand these things very clearly, little more easily. The objectives here basically identify the professional and social obligations of the project managers, explain how to ensure individual integrity, identify ways to contribute to the project management knowledge areas, and explain how to enhance the professional competence, and list the ways to promote stakeholders collaboration. These are all some of the objectives of this professional responsibility and ethics. I can tell you there will be at least 2 questions on this professional ethics and other things they will ask you in direct way. So let's try to get a little more clear about some of these concepts. I'm sure you must have already heard. Code of ethics. What have you heard about code of ethics?
It's how you treat people and how you help them out.
Okay.
It's how you handle projects,
Okay.
how you handle stakeholders.
Stakeholders. Okay. You're touching a bit about that. It's a little more detail. According to the PMI, established set of guidelines for code of ethics and professional conduct for certified PMPs professionals is as follows. It describes the expectation that the project manager should have themselves and of their fellow practitioner in the global project management community. These are all must. There is no argument on these things. One has to strictly follow the code of ethics in the project management. So what are those things? Project managers should hold a great deal of responsibility over the project they undertake, because you are accountable, you are responsible for the project, the solutions that you provide, the management cost, because I am sure, Mr. Emma, you as a senior and a veteran manager, you know very well that company would have given you certain funds to run a project, am I right? They would have given you a budget.
Correct.
So
There's always
it's
a
very
budget.
important as a project manager, you try to do that within the stipulated budget. That means the management of cost. That's one of the important things in the project management code of conduct. The impact of the performing organization. This is also important when you are performing in an organization, what impacts it gives. Then any impacted environments or groups. This is also very, in India, have you heard about the Bhopal gas tragedy by any chance, Raymond?
I have not.
You're not had. Union Carbide is a company, Everest Batteries, that's a multinational company. Union Carbide, you must have heard about the company. And
Yep.
they had a plant in Bhopal in one of the central India. And about 20 years back, there was a leakage of gas from the plant. And thousands of people died about 20, 25 years back. And even today, many people got impacted because of that gas which came out from that, which is a killing gas, which has affected even today, many people are suffering from various diseases. So the impact of the environment as a project manager it's a very, very important to look at the environmental changes it can happen. One more example I can give in many countries, these soft drink business, the soft drink, the manufacturers.
Yep.
Can you name a few beverages, soft drink beverages?
Is it like Pepsi and Coca-Cola?
Yeah. Coca-Cola, those brands in many countries, in many places, they don't give permission to start the manufacturing unit in some places. You know the reason why? You'll be surprised because all this manufacturing facility of these beverages requires huge amount of water. Am I right? It requires lot of water, and when they put up a plant, the water gets depleted in those areas. You see, in US, of course, you have plenty of water, so you may not understand sometimes, if I give that example, but in the many countries, there people are suffering because of drinking water.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even get the drinking water sufficient for a family on a day-to-day basis. So under such circumstances, suppose a company comes and put up a factory and take out all the water, what happens? Am I right? It's a tragedy, isn't it?
Yep.
So,
I understand that.
So the impacted environment is also code of ethics. So as a project manager, suppose you want to start a project, you must be aware of these environmental issues that it can impact so many people. The dollar spent, the money you spend on a project is also very important. And your vendors and contractors hired. You should not squeeze a vendor and hire them, am I right? It should be a win-win situation.
Right.
You agree with, but I'm sure you would have contracted with several contractors. So it should be always a win-win situation. You cannot grow at the cost of somebody. That's not possible, isn't it? It will be again a short-term thing. If you want to grow at the cost of somebody, then it will not give you long-term benefits. So these are all some of the great deal of responsibility. And as a project manager should clearly adhere to that. The values that support the code of index. So these are all some of the code of ethics. So what are the values it supports? The values comes under PMI identify 4 core values across the global project management community that are most important to the project managers. What are the core values? The 4 core values are responsibility, respect, fairness, and honesty. These are the 4 core values, in fact. Under each of this, you will have an aspirational and mandatory standards. So responsibility will have an aspirational and it will have a mandatory. Respect will have aspirational, mandatory. Fairness is mandatory, aspirational, and honesty also aspirational and mandatory. So we'll try to understand those things. Each section of the Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct includes both aspirational standards and mandatory standards. The aspirational standards hold as practitioners. So these aspiration standards are intangible. They're not easily measured. As I told you, the reputation, the environmental impact. These are all certain. For example, can you measure those things, Mr. Raymond? I don't think it's possible to. Am I right? It's not possible to measure the impact of those things, but you need to follow that. It is expected that the project management professionals adhere to them. These are all not optional. That means it's a mandatory. You need to follow that without any deviation. Though it is aspirational, though it cannot be measured, it has to be strictly followed. That's very, very important. So the mandatory standards establish a firm requirement and in some cases limit of prohibit a practitioner behavior. Practitioners who do not conduct themselves in accordance with these standards will respect to disciplinary procedures before PMI Ethics Review Committee. So this is very important. If any project manager does not follow these things, then there is every possibility that it can be referred to the PMI's Ethics Review Committee. So what is the responsibility? Again, it's an aspirational standard. Practitioners of project management are held to the highest standards and acknowledge their responsibility to take ownership for the decisions that they make or fail to make, and the actions that they take or fail to take, and the resulting consequences. So what are the aspirational standards here? Making decisions and taking action based on the best interest of the society, the public safety, and environment. I gave you the example of Union Carbide. I gave you the example of the soft beverage industry, in fact. So these are all some of the, it can have the impact on the environment. It can have the impact on the public safety and the society. So accepting only those assignments that are consistent with their, particularly in your architecture, for example, can you give one or two examples, Mr. Raymond, on this? Can you recollect one or two examples?
Example of aspiration standards?
Yeah.
Well, society, making sure that you're treating your owners and getting the work done for the students is properly and safe.
Good.
Public safety, same thing. Making sure the perimeter areas of these construction areas are zoned off, so public safety is held.
Good.
And then environment, we run into asbestos a lot, so
yeah,
taking care of the environment the proper way, with removal of asbestos and that.
Correct. Absolutely right. That's right. Yeah, those things are very, very important. Even, for example, the environment for the children, particularly you're doing the projects, keeping the children in mind. It has to be friendly. The road should be easily approachable. There should not be too much of traffic near those things. Am I right? Those are all public safety, the environment. You're absolutely right. You made a good analysis. It's correct. So accepting only those assignments that are consistent with their background, experience, skills, and qualifications. This is important as a project manager. So when you accept such projects, you should have the required skills, required qualification, and experience. This is very, very important. So fulfilling the commitments undertaken and do what we say we will do. This is very underlined. It's important. Do what we say we will do it. In fact, when you commit, once you commit, ensure that that commitment is met at any cost. These are all aspirational standards. So the responsibility aspirational standards. Aspirational standards include warning and correcting errors or omissions promptly. Suppose something goes wrong. I'm sure, we are all human beings. You may commit a mistake. If some mistake happens, you should accept it. You should stand up and accept, yes, I made a mistake. So I take the responsibility for that. So errors are communicated immediately to the appropriate body. Accountability is accepted along with the resulting consequences. Because when you accept a responsibility, when you're accountable for something, even you are accountable for the consequences of that. If it's good, you take the credit, and if it doesn't do well, or if something goes wrong, you should also face the consequences. Am I right? You agree, Mr. Rahman, on that?
Yes.
So accountability is accepted along with the resulting consequences, ensuring any of all the proprietary or confidential information is protected. When you're handling various projects, there will be a lot of confidential information. You need to ensure that you follow those confidential information kept without leaking from the organization. Upholding the ethical code and holding each other accountable to it. This is all responsibility of the aspirational standards. Now, responsibility of mandatory, as I told you that aspirational standards, these cannot be measured. Many times you cannot put a tangible benefit to that, but these are all intangible things. Whereas the mandatory standards is be informed to all regulations and legal requirements. I'm sure when you're building, since you are an architecture, when you're building, when you're proposing a building, you should ensure that all the regulations and legal requirements are met. Uphold the policies, rules, and regulations and laws that govern their work, professional and volunteer activities, and report unethical or illegal conduct to appropriate manager and, if necessary, to those affected by the conduct. This is important when you're working in an organization, when you're doing several projects. Suppose you find that one of your colleague, Mr. Raymond, that is not adhering to these principles or is violating this code of ethics. So it is your responsibility to inform the concerned people, or including the PMI sometimes, that somebody is not following the code of ethics. Are you? I've understood that. Are you clear about this?
Yes, I'm good with that.
Very good. Yeah. So these are all the mandatory standards include. So responsibility of the ethics compliance. Part of the responsibility of the project manager includes reporting violations of the PMI code ethics and professional conduct by other project managers. So it's important. In fact, let's say somebody is not a PMP certified in a company, but he applies to another organization stating that I'm as PMI certified, I have the required qualification, I can do the project. And you as a project manager comes to know about that, the person is not PMI qualified, then you should immediately inform the concerned people. Either it could be a PMI body or it could be your organization. So this also comes under code of ethics. Non-informing can become a violation. Mr. Raymond, that's very important. You have the information, but if you don't inform, also can become, that means you are violating or you're not following the code of ethics. Got it?
Yep.
Yeah, good. So ethics compliance must adhere to the following PMI standards, bring violations of this code to the attention of the appropriate body or resolution, file ethics compliance when they are substantiated by facts. This is important, you should have the affecting facts, and pursue disciplinary action against an individual who retaliates against a person raising ethical concern. That means you are trying to take an action against somebody who is not following that. And by any chance, if he tries to retaliate with you, that you are trying to take an action against me, then you can even go for legal action, a disciplinary action. That also you can initiate it. This all comes under the responsibility of ethics compliance. Then respect aspirational standards. Here, the project manager show respect by having high regard of themselves, others, and the resources entrusted to them. Resources entrusted to project manager may include people, money, reputation, the safety of others, and natural or environmental resources. So here, the aspirational standards include being informed about the norms, about the customs of others, and avoid engaging in behaviors they might be considered disrespectful, listening to others' points of view and seeking to understand them, approaching directly those persons with whom you have a conflict or a disagreement, and conducting themselves in a professional manner, even if it is not reciprocate. These are all the aspirational standards. What are the respect mandatory standards? Negotiating with good faith. I told you that it has to be a win-win situation. It cannot be a win-lose proposition. Not exercising the power of their expertise or position to influence the decisions or actions of others in order to benefit personally at their expense. Some of the project managers, what they do, just because they got powers, they try to use that power to emphasize that power on the team members or on somebody while making a decision. That is not right. Just because you have the authority, just because you got the power, you cannot enforce, you cannot influence the decision or action on others. Not acting in an abusive manner or towards others. You should never use unparliamentary words. You should never abuse anybody. And respecting the property rights of others. This is also important when you are dealing with customers, when you visit them, for example, you always should respect the property rights of others. That's also equally important. The fairness aspiration standards, project manager must ensure fairness as a core value while making decision and must act impartially and objectively. So the project manager conduct must be free from competing self-interest and prejudice and favoritism. They should never have any self-interest while taking a decision. They should not favor, particularly when you're selecting your people, human resources, or when you're selecting vendors, the third-party arrangements, you should never have any favoritism for them. All should be treated equally and according to their merits, according to the qualifications, or according to the competence level you need to select. So aspiration standards include demonstrating transparency in decision-making process. You should be very fair and just to everybody, constantly re-examining personal impartiality and objectivity, taking corrective actions as possible, and providing equal access to information to those authorized to have that information. Particularly when you are feeding that information to the stakeholders, all stakeholders should get the required information correctly. That's important. You should not hide certain information from stakeholders, and you should give only partial information. That should not happen. And providing equal opportunity to qualified candidates. This is basically important when you're recruiting. Are you part of the recruiting system in your company, Mr.?
Not currently.
You're not really. Yeah, normally your HR people, they do the recruitments.
Yep.
Yeah, they don't even consult you for this.
They haven't.
They have not. So yours is what? Yours is a functional organization. That means.
Pardon?
Yours is a functional. Basically, you have got a functional managers. Am I right? You have a HR
Correct.
manager. You have got an IT manager, or you have got a resource manager, or a logistics manager. It's like that. You have those designations in your company.
We do have those designations.
So it's more of a functional organization. It's like that. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Good. Okay. We'll discuss that. It's very important and understand the various structure of the organization in the following slide. So when you're involved in, for example, decision making to hire the candidates, it's important that you have the equal opportunity to give all the qualified candidates. There should not be any prioritization, or there should not be any discrimination, or there should not be any favoritism. These are all aspirational standards. Fairness, mandatory standards, proactively and fully disclosing any real or potential conflict of interest to appropriate stakeholders. You heard about the conflict of interest, Mr. Raymond? Are you familiar with this? It's very important, conflict of interest.
Yep. Yep, I understand that.
Can you give one example, if you don't mind?
It would be like me being involved with schools, projects, but also being involved with that school district in some way or form. Say, like I'm a board member.
Absolutely right. Correct.
That would be a conflict of interest.
Correct. You have hit it on the name. You're absolutely right. So that conflict of interest, even if it is there, what is important is that you should inform stakeholders. For example, you should inform your promoters that you are a board member of the school. At the same time, you are going to do the school project. Okay, so when that happens, then they are very clear. So that's very, very important. You should disclose the information. There is nothing wrong to be, for example, to be a member of the school board and also do the project for the school. There is nothing wrong. But what's important is that you need to inform your stakeholders, your promoters, that you are a board member. Clear? That's important. You got it?
Yep.
Yeah. So when real or potential conflict of interest is realized, refraining from engaging in the decision-making process or otherwise attempting to influence outcomes. So because, just to give the same example, you are a member of the school board, you are on the board of that. So when your company wants to select a project, you should try to refrain from the selection process. It's like that. So you need not be part of the selection committee when you are giving a project for the particular school, because you are a member of the school board. It's like that. So if you try to avoid from that selection process, that will be great. So refraining from engaging the decision-making process or otherwise attempting to influence. Sometimes, if not that, then you try to influence on the decision-making. So if there is real or potential conflict of interest, participating only when full disclosure is made to the affected stakeholders, approval or complete mitigation plan is received, or consent of stakeholders is processed, is obtained. These are all some of the mandatory standards. So the honesty and aspiration standards, project manager must uphold honesty as a core value to understand the truth and act of a truth manner, both in communication and conduct. You know that honesty is the best policy, they say. Am I right? You know, you're familiar with that phrase. So you should be honest everywhere. Aspiration standards include earnestly seeking understand the truth, being truthful in communications and conduct, because whatever you communicate, there should be always truth. That's important, because the truth builds trust. That the truth is a stepping stone to build this trust, and without trust, you cannot succeed. So you should be always, you should understand the truth. You should try to seek the truth. Then providing accurate information in a timely manner, that's important, and making commitments and promises, implied or explicit, in good faith. Whether sometimes explicit could be orally, or writing what you put, implying could be clear understanding, in good faith. Striving to create an environment in which others feel safe to tell the truth. Because sometimes what happens, Mr. Rahman, you must also experience, suppose certain team members, sometimes they don't reveal because of scare, because of fear. If I tell this, my boss may fire me, or my boss will angry on me. Have you come across such situations?
Yes.
So you should remove that that type of feeling among the team members. If they're not scared, then they will tell you the truth. But if they're scared that if I tell this, my boss may fire me, or I'll be taken into task, or others may come and bounce on me. When you have such feelings, such fears, sometimes people does not open out. So as a project manager, it is the aspirational standard is a requirement that you need to ensure that you create such a good environment. Honesty, mandatory standards, not engaging or condoning behavior that is designed to deceive others, including but not limited to making misleading or false statements. If you don't have the facts, you should never give that information. That's important. Stating half truths, you don't give the full picture. For example, your project, you know very well that there is a month, I'm just giving a hypothetical situation that it's taking 1 month extra time. There is a time deviation of 1 month, you know very well, but you don't give that information to your owners, to sponsors. You still say that as a project manager, no, everything is going well, it's going as per the schedule. That's not right. That's the mandatory standard. You should never tell the half truth. The truth you should disclose. Then you can take some corrective measures for that, so that your stakeholders or the product owners are aware of what is happening. Providing information out of context. Out of context in the sense, has no relevance, and you give that information. Withholding information that, if known, would render your statements as misleading or incomplete. That's also not right. You should be truthful. You should communicate clearly, and not engaging in dishonest behavior with the intention of personal gain or at the expense of others. So these are all the mandatory standards that one has to follow. And what is the individual integrity? Project manager need to ensure their own individual integrity while managing a product. That means always reporting the truth regardless of negative consequences. As I told you that if there is a delay, if there is a schedule variation or the cost variation, you should always inform the truth to your stakeholders. And regarding, sometimes they may get angry, sometimes they may take harsh decision, but irrespective of negative consequences, you should be always truthful. When conflict occurs, dealing with directly with the persons, then treating everyone with respect, avoiding discrimination. This is very, very important. In our organization, have you come across such things, Mr. Raymond? Discrimination?
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere, in fact. Oh, okay. What type of discrimination normally you face? There are different ways, but what can you give me one or two examples?
Some of it is ethnical.
Technical, okay. What is it? Technical.
Ethnical.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Some of it is like discrimination of different trying to think of the word. Say African American and
Yeah.
American and
American, yeah.
Indian and all that.
The black, white, and all such
Yep,
things.
yep.
Okay, okay. And the language sometimes, if they
Yep.
don't express properly, am I right? That's another thing.
Yep.
You will have all this discrimination, and we should try to avoid. That's very, very important. I fully agree with you. That's right. Then following all rules and regulations governing the project is very critical. Reporting unethical or dishonest behavior. When you know that in one environment, project environment is somebody is trying to do a favor or somebody is trying to take a bribe, all these things has to be, you should report to the concerned people. Then not factoring personal gains into a decision in any way. Project manager, you have got a lot of decision making, hiring people, hiring vendors. So you should never look into any of the personal gains. That's very critical and important. And always doing the right thing and following the right process. There should not be any shortcuts. Whatever has been laid down, the procedure, the process, and you should always ensure the right thing is done. So ensuring individual integrity continued. You should never divulging company information to unauthorized parties. That's also important. You are handling confidential projects, for example, and you should never divulge that information about how much it has costed for this project or how much time it has taken. Such information should not be given to unauthorized parties. And respecting the intellectual property rights. Of course, in US, you are very, very familiar. These IP rights are the great. Everybody should respect that. And following the Project Management Institute Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct, this can be found in the PMI website. When you visit the PMI website, you will get far more things. So understanding the individual integrity required project manager to answer the questions that test professional and ethical responsibility. I'm sure there will be 2 or 3 questions on this. So I request you to study these things once again, if in case you have got any doubts. Here is one problem statement. We'll try to solve this. You are a project manager for a global project. The project is being delivered to in another country, and most of your team members are spread out across multiple regions. Your project sponsor is confident in your team's ability to finish the project under budget and ahead of schedule. To encourage you and your team, the early completion incentive has been linked to the project. After using parametric estimates in the planning process and developing a well-documented basis of estimates, you're confident that you can deliver the project within the budget and on schedule. So after an on-site meeting with the local officials about the status of the project, one of the officials pulls you aside to have a conversation. He tells you that he can get an important government approval immediately, which will ensure that the next phase of project is completed ahead of schedule. However, he asks you to pay him $250 in US currency as an administration fee. So what would you do as a project manager?
I would disclose this with the owner.
Okay, good.
And I would talk with my supervisor.
Okay, good.
And I would tell the person that we will not accept the $250.
Great. Yeah, absolutely right. Because you answered it well. Because you deny the request to pay $250 to the official, because you want to keep your project on a positive path to ensure success. Further, your project team would like to earn an incentive for the hard work. However, paying the official money would be considered as a bribe. So you will not pay that. And so the next step, as you said, you do meet the sponsor and report the offer made by the official. So this type of questions will be there, Mr. Raymond, in the examination. They will try to twist and ask you. It may not be as straightforward question like this, but they will try to put it in an indirect way to test your skills about the ethics, about the integrity, and your aspiration standard or mandatory standards. You got it? I think you got the essence.
Yep.
Good. Okay. So contributing to the project acknowledgement base is also important. So project manager can contribute to the project management knowledge base in the same way. Share the best practices learned during the project with other project managers in your organization. How many PMs you have in your company, Mr. Raymond?
How many certified PMPs?
Yeah, project managers, yeah.
I don't know of any
You don't.
in our
Okay.
organization.
Okay, fine. I'm sure there must be things since yours is a projectized, you'll be taking a lot of projects. So it's very important that suppose once you become a certified project manager, you can share your experience with other project managers in the organization. So that's how you can promote and contribute.
Yep.
What I'm trying to do, as a teaching which I have taken up, basically out of passion, I'm trying to do this. In fact, I see I'm 64, I'm retired. Probably I could have taken that's what my family tells me, that why at this age also you want to struggle like this. But I'm doing it out of passion, because I like this subject, project management. So that's one of the reasons that I want to teach. I want to share my whatever little knowledge I have among the youngsters or who want to understand the subject. I get a lot of happiness out of this. It's an intangible. No amount of money can replace that.
Mm-hmm.
When I share this experience or whatever little I know, I get immense happiness about this profession. In fact, that's why I'm trying to do this. So, like that, sharing your best practices, sharing knowledge with others will give a lot of happiness. And mentor junior team members on project management related topics. Write a white paper or blog in a project management or participate in project management discussion groups. Once you become a PMI, you'll have you'll have a lot of opportunity to share your views. Have you written any articles, Mr. Raymond, in your company inside within the organization? Circulars or good articles?
Um, yeah, there's all kinds of people that I could share this with.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You can write articles also in the. I'm sure if your company has got a magazine, you can publish, or in the
Yep. Yep.
local
Yep.
chapter, you can become a member and you can publish your articles, your experience. It's all sharing your project knowledge. Then actively participate in analyzing the past project data and compile project management related metrics to be used within the organization. Since your company has you have done already 100 projects, I'm right, more than 100 projects you have done, you can compile the data of all those things, each project, how long it took, what was the cost, what environment, what context, the context, you can make all these things as a ready log for future reference for the project. It will become your organization process assets, OPA, it will become in fact. So you can also contribute and participate in voluntary activities with the PMI. The Project Management Institute will have a lot of opportunity for volunteering. You can go and teach there, you can take classes, there will be a lot of seminars, you can go and contribute, you can become a volunteer. So once you become a PMI member, there is a voluntary thing, it's keep coming. You can look at those opportunities and you can contribute also if you have time. So the professional competence, project manager should do the following to enhance, analyze the strength and weakness. This is very important. Do a SWOT analysis always. What is my strength? What is my weakness? What opportunity to have? And to do this opportunity, what threats, I may come across like that. Then look for a senior project manager to mentor them on areas where they are not very competent. Actively look for ways to apply the project management knowledge projects and read project management books for new ideas or techniques. Today, the ocean of library, in fact, and your fingertips, Google it, you get all the information. Am I right, Mr. Raymond?
Yep. Yep.
So you can get anything, you can Google it. Listen or participate in the webinars and online learning efforts. Join a local chapter of PMI. You're based, where exactly? You're based in New York, am I right?
Yeah, not New York City, but basically in the state of New York.
Oh, stay in New York. Okay, fine. I'm sure, there must be a PMI. You can become a member there.
Somewhere around here, I would assume.
Yeah, this horizon. Yeah, okay. Then discuss the challenges faced on the project with other project managers. This is how somehow you can exchange your views and things. This one more statement, problem statement. We'll try to look at it. You wrapped up a project 3 months ago that produced spare parts of one of your customers. You successfully gained final acceptance and signed off by the customer on the deliverable. Managing the project went well because your parts consistently met the quality metrics, fitness for use test, and passed all control charts. There was no indication of issues with the quality and grade that would promptly need for a change. A fellow project manager in the company is preparing for a similar project with a different customer and they want to meet with you. They glean the insight of what you expect. During your meeting, you discover an error in the results communicated in the deliverables that may potentially turn into a safety issue in the future, which could affect thousands of customers. Although the risk involved with these newly discovered safety issues are very small, they could have a serious impact. So how should you handle this?
No, I would take it back to the client, customer, and
Okay.
explain the situation.
Okay, good.
And then try to figure out a solution.
Very good. Yeah, great. That means you want to be transparent. You don't want to keep the fact, even though it's very important that the customer has already accepted the product and they have signed off. That's very, very important. You see the top line, you successfully gained the final acceptance and signed off by the customer on the deliverables. But the mistake you found out internally when you are doing for some other projects. But even then, as you said rightly, you should go and inform the customer. That's very, very important. I appreciate your thought process. So you should first get in touch with your old project sponsor and management to communicate your findings both verbally and in writing. Then you and the sponsor should communicate your findings with your customer. So according to the PMI Code of Ethics, Professional Conduct, you must uphold the policies, rules, regulations, and laws that govern your work, professional, and voluntary activity. That's the best approach, Mr. Raymond. You're absolutely right. So promoting the stakeholders collaboration, project manager should encourage stakeholder collaboration so that stakeholders are aware of the true benefits of the project and help whatever they can do, make it successful. So the PM should perform following activities: resolve the competing interest, take charge of the deal with the conflict scenarios. This is very important. You should not avoid. The conflicts are bound to happen, but you should have the courage to take it head on and solve the problems. Respect cultural differences that occur when people span geographies. As you said rightly, in your own organization, there could be the color discrimination, such things, those things are very important. You need to respect them, every culture. That's very important. And always keep stakeholders informed about the true status of their projects. Don't try to hide information. If the project is running late, keep them informed. The project is doing, for example, if there are some problems, if the quality could be an issue, in fact, inform your stakeholders. This all. So promoting the stakeholders collaboration is very critical and one of the important function of the project manager. So one more question. Can you read this, Mr. Raymond? Can you read this question?
Yes.
Yeah.
You want me to read through it?
Yeah, if you don't mind, can you read it?
Okay, the ACME technology company prides itself on providing excellent customer service and delivering high-quality technology implementations. This brand strategy has served the company well because they maintain a strong customer loyalty record. The area that hurts them at times is the fact that some of their systems implementations take longer than forecast. Jim is a project manager at the company, and he is leading a desktop upgrade for one of their repeat customers. The project is nearing its completion date, and it is time to check the correctness of the computer build-out. During the evaluation, it is brought to Jim's attention that the desktop system speed is not fast enough for the company's core financial software to function as designed. A team member suggests they increase the system's speed by 10% with additional RAM as a courtesy to the customers since they have excess parts from another project, and it will not cost the company any additional dollars. In addition, there were issues on the last project worked for this customer, and this would be a great way to make up for the past problems. What should Jim do?
Yeah. It's an ethical question, right? Code of ethics.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I guess I would go back to the customer and say, we're not quite up to speed with your requirements. We do have some additional parts for a different project. Do we want to go ahead and use those parts, or do we want to purchase more different ones?
So talk to the customer directly and keep them informed. That's what I feel.
Yep.
And don't use it, the additional thing as suggested by one of the team member, am I right?
Don't use it without permission.
That's right. That's it. So the additional speed would make a huge difference to allow the ACMA to meet the defined quality matrix and fitness for requirements. The fact that the software will not be able to perform the system to meet the established requirement would be a failure point. So Jim should document, this is very important, both the issues and the recommendation to present to the project sponsor. Identifying the performance concern is required as he has now been made to aware of this issue. You are absolutely right. But one part is that you need to document it.
Yeah, okay.
That's very, very important. You see, in the project management scenario, anything and everything should be documented here. There cannot be a single thing which is oral understanding. I have told him that such things will not help in the project environment. I'm right. You agree with me on that. I see at home at a personal project, it's okay if you don't tell somebody or if you don't put it in writing, it's okay. But in an organization, everything has to be documented because that will help you. For example, if something goes wrong at a later stage, if you have documented it, then that will help you to come out of the situation. Am I right? You agree with me on that?
Yep.
So clearly everything, that's why in the project environment, you got tons and tons of documents updation. You always keep on updating the various things. We'll discuss that in the knowledge areas. The updation, up to date or updating all the required documents is very critical. So both these issues and recommendation has to be documented. So what are the key takeaways so far? The Project Management Institute Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct should always be followed by the project managers. The PM can contribute to the project management knowledge area by actively analyzing and project data and compiling project management. And the PM should analyze their strength and weakness and look at senior professionals to mentor them on areas where they need to improve. Sometimes, as I told you, that you need not be expert in all the areas. It's not possible. But if you don't know something, it's always good to go and ask the senior people. A PM should always keep stakeholders informed about the true status of the project. And if a project manager becomes aware of the unethical practice and has factual evidence, the conduct should be reported to the appropriate governance body. This concludes the professional social responsibility. Any questions, Mr. Raymond?
No questions at this point.
Is it very clear? I hope it's
Yes.
clear.
Yes, you're doing a great job.
Oh, very good. Thanks a lot. Okay. So what we'll do is that it's almost 4 hours. We'll take about 10 minutes break if you don't mind.
That's fine. That's perfect.
And we'll continue for 1 more hour today.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine, no? So we'll take exactly 10 minutes break.
Okay, so it's right now it's 2 o'clock, so 2:10 we'll be back here?
Yeah, 2:10 we'll be back and we'll continue up to 4 in understand. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, okay. Hello, are you back?
I am just getting back.
Okay, good. Okay, fine. Okay, shall we continue now?
Sure.
So for any questions or clarifications on previous chapters, Mr. Raymond?
No question at this point.
Good. Okay. Again, I'm asking, it's quite audible and very clear, my communication. And I'm right?
Yes. Yep.
Good. Okay. So the next one, the lesson number 3 is the project management framework. Let's try to understand a little bit of these things. The main objective is recognize the roles of the project management office. Do we have an office, PMO office in our organization, project management office?
No, the project managers are scattered throughout the office.
Oh, but you don't have a project management office itself like that. You don't.
Nope, it's more of an open office kind of program.
Okay, it's like that. Okay. Then they describe a different organization structure. Here, let's try to understand the different organization structure exists. Then they differentiate between the project life cycle and the product life cycle. Let's try to understand that. Then define and understand the project management process, map, and framework. According to you, what is the project life cycle and the product life cycle? How do you define that?
Project life cycle is how the project goes throughout the cycle of the project. Could be 2 months, could be 5 years, could be 10 years.
Okay.
And then the product life cycle is what the life expectancy is for the product itself that you're creating.
Correct. Yes.
And how it works within its life cycle.
Yeah. Product life cycle is like our human life cycle. In fact, we We have a childhood days, we have got adult days, then we become aged, then we start, slowing down. That's how this is our product, our human life cycle. Like this, any product will have a growth stage, it will have a maturity stage, then it will have a declining stage. The product you launch at the beginning, then it will grow, then it will reach a maturity level, then it start declining. In fact, this is the product life cycle. The project life cycle is this process. Now you initiate a project, you plan the project, you execute it, you monitor and control, and you close the project. So that itself is a project life cycle. Have you got the idea, in fact, Mr.
Pardon?
Did you get that, what I explained?
Yep, I did.
So the project life cycle is nothing but these 5 processes we talk about: initiating, planning, executing, and monitoring and control. And the product life cycle is, it's launch days, then you have a growth stage, then you have a maturity stage, then you start declining, and you'll have the product will vanish. That is the product life cycle. You see, for example, the fax machines which I was talking to you, or telex rolls, for example, telex machines. Those telex machines, can you recollect that, they evolved, they grow, and they declined, and they got existed in the market. Am I right? They're no longer. So
Correct.
that means those products have gone once for all. So let's say an Apple company, why every year, for example, Apple keeps coming out with different iPads or improved iPads? Because the product has got a life cycle. It evolves, it grows, it matures, then slowly it starts declining. At that time, they introduce new variants, or you add value addition to those products to keep alive, in fact. Am I right? That's the product life cycle. So recognize the roles and project management office. Let's try to understand. The project management office, Mr. Raymond, is a project management office is an organization structure that standardizes project-related governance processes and facilitates the sharing of resources, methodologies, tools, and techniques. There are some big companies where the projectized organizations are there. You heard about Lasser and Tubro, that company? You heard by any chance?
Yep.
You've heard about it. It is a projectized organization. So L&T has got a project management office because there are several projects will be running in the organization. One could be a rail project, another could be a construction project, another could be a road project. So different projects are there. So the project management office, it standardizes the project related governance and processes. That's what the PMO does. So the primary roles of a PMO, we call it as a project management office, has one or more combination of the following primary areas. It provides the policies, methodologies, and tools and templates for managing projects within the organization. It is like a strategic, it is like a corporate office, it's like a project management office where the rules are governed. It provides a support for training on the organization how to manage projects, because all the 365 days, different projects are going on in different places. So it provides a training support to manage these projects. It provides project manager for ongoing projects in the organization. It ensures that compliance, the government statutory requirement with all policies, procedures, and methodologies and tools and templates within the organization. You have got a set of rules and guidelines. It ensures that you follow that. What are the other roles of a PMO is that managing interdependencies between the projects. That means, let's say there are 5 projects that are running parallelly. You need to ensure that some interdependencies. Sometimes one project manager might be shared among 2 projects. That is possible. Sometimes the financial head probably can give inputs for both the projects. So the interdependencies between the projects can be shared. Selecting, managing, and deploying a shared or dedicated project resources. Each project, I am sure, will have a dedicated resources, but at the same time, a PMO can decide that when you require a particular resources, it can be shared among the projects. Terminating the projects, this is also important. They keep evaluating. Let's say in your organization, there are 5 projects are going on, the construction projects, Mr. Raymond. The PMO can take a decision if one particular project is going behind the schedule or one particular project is overshooting the expenses. If they are above the cost, then the PMO can take a decision of terminating those projects. So organizing lessons learned sessions from the various past project or the current projects. For example, in architecture, in the building which is happening, a PMO can decide, suppose in New York City you are having a project, what knowledge you gain, if there, suppose you start a project in Chicago, that knowledge can be shared in the Chicago project. It's like that. Organizing lessons learned and maintaining the project management knowledge base of an organization and supporting projects through knowledge, repositories, training, and mentoring. Are you clear about this, Mr. Raymond, about the project PMO?
Yep.
Good. So these are the primary roles and responsibility or the other roles of the PMO. Now let's come to the most important thing. You can expect at least 2 questions from this. So I wanted to get this in your hand. There are different organization structure based on the level of authority vested in the project manager as follows. There are functional organization, an organization structure in which staff is grouped by areas of specialization. And the project manager has limited authority to assign work and apply resources. For example, you are telling that in your company, you've got a marketing function, you've got a HR function, you've got an IT function, you've got a supply chain function. Am I right?
Yep.
And each of them will be headed by one manager, correct?
Yes.
So it becomes a functional organization. That means, suppose you as a project manager want to start a project, you have to negotiate the people you require. From HR, you have to negotiate how many people you require. From IT department, you need 1 or 2 guys, you have to go and negotiate with them. Your head of your finance department, you need to support, you need to go and negotiate with 1 or 2 people like that. So in the process, what happens? Your project manager role or authority is very, very limited. Am I right? You agree with me?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. That is called functional organization, where the project manager role or responsibility or authority is very limited. Now, in the projectized organization, the organization mostly work on projects. Here, you as a project manager, you got complete authority on the resources. That means you can control, you can hire, you can fire, you can do whatever you want with your resources. That is the projectized advanced. That is structure. Have you understood the difference between a functional and projectized?
Yes.
Is it clear? Okay. Most of the organizations fall under the matrix organization or projectized organization or function. Many of the organizations do fall. Here in matrix, you need to understand there are 3 types of matrix organization. One is the weak matrix. Weak matrix is almost like functional organization, where for every resources, you need to go and request the functional managers. That means you have limited authority on the resources in the weak matrix. In the strong matrix organization is almost equal to a projectized organization, where you have the complete authority in a strong matrix organization. So the power of project manager, they will ask you in a different way. What is the power of a project manager in a weak matrix? They will twist that question and answer. They will give you, in fact. And you need to answer, if it is a weak matrix organization, the power or the authority of the project manager is very limited. In a strong matrix organization, it is almost equal to the projectized organization. You have got complete authority over the resources. There is one more, it's called balanced matrix. In the balanced matrix, both the functional manager and the project manager have got equal authority, Mr. Raymond. Both of them will have 50-50 authority. But for the appraisal, the functional manager has got a say in that. That's the difference. You got it?
Yes.
So that's the only difference in the balanced order. Otherwise, you want to, in the projectized or a strong matrix is ideal for a project environment. But many times, I worked in all functional organizations throughout my career. That means whenever I used to handle a project in my department, I had to borrow people from IT department, from R&D department, from finance department for 2 months, 3 months, depending upon the project period. And once that gets over, I used to send them back. So I had to negotiate with the functional managers. So this is about the organization structure. You can expect at least 2 questions on this. Any doubts you have? Anything I would like to clear it?
No, I don't have anything.
I hope my explanation is very clear and proper.
Yep.
That's good. So the term tight matrix referred to co-located team, that is team that has been placed in same location in order to enhance the performance. That's called a tight matrix organization. Tight matrix organization means you are working in one place in order to get a better control over the team, in fact. So that is about the structure. So let's understand a little more functional organization. What are the characteristics? Resources are grouped as by functions or departments like HR manager, HR people, IT team members, supply chain members. It's like function. Functions have a definite roles are headed by a manager. All the resources report directly to the functional management. Project manager role is not explicitly defined. So resources from there within the function play the role of a project manager here. So the functional organization provide opportunity for specialization. That means HR special, IT special, supply chain special, or IT special, like that. And project resources are negotiated and borrowed from functional areas for the duration. Have you done any type of negotiations with your other functional manager, Mr. Raymond? I think you must have done, am I right?
A little bit.
For your projects, in fact, am I right? You must have done that a little bit.
Yep.
So this is how the functional manager exits. In the projectized, as I explained very clearly, here the resources are aligned to the projects. Project managers have primary authority over the project resources. You can do whatever you want with your resources. You can hire them, you can fire them, you can do anything. Project execution becomes easier because of the dedicated project resources, because they will be there with you all the 24 hours or till the project gets completed, they will be with you. Unlike the functional, sometimes the functional manager requests them to go back. So they will, all such things can be avoided in the projectized organization. Our roles and resources ceases once the project is completed and the resources return to the functional pool. So once your project, normally what is the duration of your projects, Mr. Raymond? How long it takes?
It could be between 6 months and
6 months. Okay.
We got a project we're working on now. It's going to be 5 years long. So
like 5 years. In fact, that called mega projects. I think 5 years. Am I right? Yeah.
Yep.
I see. That's right. What is the value of those mega projects?
The 5-year project is $80 million.
$80 million. So that's pretty.
And then the smaller projects are $2 to $10 million.
$10 million. Oh, good. Okay. Yep. So that's why once this your 5 years project is over, then they will be go back to the respective functions, or probably they move on to other projects.
Yep.
The scope for functional specialization is limited here, because suppose you draw from a HR function, that person, as long as the project is there, he'll be there. Further, growth in the projectized environment, it gets limited. Whereas if he continues to be an HR manager, for example, today he's an executive, tomorrow he can become a manager, and later on he can become an executive or a vice president, like that. So those things gets limited in a projectized organization or environment. I hope you are clear about the functional and the projectized organization. Okay. Yep. These questions, I will explain to you also once again. I told you that in the 5 process groups, 200 questions, there will be some scenario-based question, there will be some mathematical-based questions, and there will be some case-based questions will be there. Out of these 200 questions, at least around 30 to 40 questions will be straightforward, mathematical-based, where you need to answer this question in a very, very short time. That's important. Because I tell you the reason, Mr. Rahman, you got 240 minutes, am I right? 4 hours to answer 200 questions.
Yeah, we only have 4 hours, so you got to divide 200 into 4.
240 minutes.
Yep.
200 questions you have. That means how much time you have to answer one question. 240 divided by 200.
It's a little over a minute a question.
No, little over a minute. That's around 65 seconds or 66 seconds that you have time to answer one question. Okay, am I right? Yep. Now, This scenario-based question, which somehow we went through today, it will take many times to read the question itself will take around 20 to 25 seconds. Am I right? You agree?
Right, right.
So if you take 20 to 25 seconds to read a question, understand that, then there are 4 options. You need to read all the 4 options, correct?
Yep.
That will take another 20 seconds easily. Even to read one line, it takes 5 seconds. So 4 options means 20 seconds. That means almost 45 to 50 seconds you are taking to read and understand a question itself, correct? Am I right? And the answers.
Correct.
Then
Yep.
how much time you are left with to answer, to select the right answer? You are hardly left with 15 seconds. So what I am suggesting is that this straightforward question, there are some mathematical questions which I will explain to you when in the following slides. When we get into the cost management, you need to remember the 20 formulas. And these type of straightforward questions like matrix organization, projectized organization answers, you should answer in just matter of 5 or 10 seconds. If the concept is very, very clear, you'll be able to answer these questions in about 10, 15 seconds. If you do that, the time you save from these questions answering, you can spend little more time in answering those questions. You got it, what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I understand that.
Are you with me, in fact? So these straightforward questions, these mathematical questions, you must mug it up, or you must be very, very clear with these concepts. The moment you read the question, within 5-10 seconds, you should answer the questions. So the time you save from these questions, the answer you save, it will help you to take little more time to answer those situation-based or the case-based questions. When we do the mock test, probably I can explain to you, but I want you to remember these things very clearly. So the projectized organization, the matrix, weak matrix, strong matrix, the moment weak matrix, if you read that word, Mr. Raymond, immediately you should strike that the project manager's authority is limited. The moment you say the projectized organization, it would immediately strike that the project manager's authority is, you have got a full power or the highest authority. In fact, you understand, in fact, these are certain basic things. If you follow, it will help you to answer the questions in the examination. Got it? You are with me?
Yep, I understand.
Very good, very nice. I'm sure with so much of experience, with it should be easy for you. But still, I thought it's my duty to explain these things very clearly so that tomorrow there'll not be any ambiguity there.
Good.
So in a matrix organization, the resources report to functional manager, as I said already many times, or aligned to the project managers. The authority of the project manager is the weakest in a weak matrix and strongest in a strong matrix. It provides for optimal utilization of the resources and functional specialization, and dual reporting structure increases the communication cost and management challenges. I'm sure you will agree that if one colleague reports to 2 bosses, what happens?
Communications get lost.
There will be a lot of problems, am I right? If they're reporting, yeah, there will be 2 bosses. If they report, some people will try to take the advantage of the situation also. Correct, am I right? So there will be a lot of communication gaps. There will be a lot of problems, and even it can cost to the organization also. So this is a matrix organization. So remember, again, I'm repeating that weak matrix, balanced matrix, strong matrix, and projectized organization and functional organization. You can expect at least, according to me, I got 2 questions from these 4 or 5 things, in fact. And it was easy for me to answer in about 8 to 10 seconds, so that I saved whatever time I saved, I spent a little more time in the other questions. Good. So here are some of the advantages and disadvantages of the organizational structure. In functional, it's clearly defined career paths, greater specialization and skill development, more flexible workforce, less confusion because of the reporting structure, one manager, because they all report to the functional managers. What are the disadvantages? It's department work gets higher priority and project work, no career path in the project management because they're always aligned to the particular functions. So in a particular project environment, when you're borrowing people from the different functions, they'll have a limited career path. Then in the projectized, better communication with the projects, more loyalty towards the project goals, because all the 24/7 throughout the day, they are available for you. And it's less efficient use of resources because they're confined to one particular project. No defined roles when the project is completed, because they don't know what happens when the project gets over, or whether they are going back to their functional area, they don't know. So that uncertainty, that ambiguity will be there, and limited and diffuse skill development. So that also can happen because in a project environment, all the skills will be directed towards project only, in fact. So it gets limited to enhance the skills in other areas. Matrix, better coordination, maximum utilization of resources, the higher potential for conflict because they report to managers, and greater communication complexity and overhead. These are all some of the advantages and disadvantages. Yes. Yeah. So here comes the project life cycle and the product life cycle, which I was trying to explain. A project life cycle consists of a project until the closure. So the product life cycle encompasses the operational and maintenance phases. That's the product life cycle. So a typical product life cycle starts with the conception of a product, goes on until its withdrawal from the market, or when it becomes obsolete. I gave you the example of fax machine. Kodak camera, for example, it becomes obsolete because nobody uses camera. You are in the small camera, of course, the big costly cameras they do use for shooting and all those things. But for day to day, for example, most of the people use your mobile phones because that itself has got a camera. In fact, just to tell you, I stopped wearing watch 20 years back. The moment I bought a mobile phone, I stopped wearing watch or the clock. Mr. Raymond, do you wear watch?
No, I don't.
You don't, because the time you get it from your mobile phone itself. Am I right?
Yep.
So the same thing with me also. So it became obsolete. Today, we don't require for that particular reason. Of course, there are people they've got a fashion or got a passion to wear watches like Rolex and all those things. It is very, very costly watches. They do wear it. I'm not telling that they don't, but at the same time, sometimes it becomes obsolete for that. Product life cycle is long. It can require a spawn many projects over its life. As I told you that in the declining stage, for example, Apple iPod, every year they will have a new projects to enhance the quality or the utility or the value addition for the iPads. Am I right? So that's how the product life cycle get enhanced. A project life cycle depends upon the control needs and performing organization of the organization performance, which is defined in the project execution methodology. So in project, what happens? You initiate the project, performing organization preference, which is defined in the project execution methodology. So the project life cycle versus product life cycle is an iPod is an example of product over the course that product life. There were many projects that enhanced its function and added features. These projects and the life cycle were determined by the control needs of the Apple, which typically emphasize time to market, priorities, and high quality. The iPod is a product exhibited as a own life cycle like consumption, introduction, maturity, decline, and how the withdrawal as the new products will replace it. This is the example of a typical product life cycle. So ability to differentiate between a product life cycle and the project life cycle may be useful while answering the question. So the project life cycle was the project management processes. In the project life cycle addresses the question, what to do to get the work done. Project life cycle varies by industry, in fact. In the project management process addresses the question, what to do to manage the project. Project management processes are likely to be the same across the industries. In fact, here, the same processes can be applied in a construction industry, can be used in other industry, IT industry, everywhere the management processes remain same. So for example, in the software industry, project lifecycle includes understanding the requirement in the requirement analysis phase, in the implementing requirement in the design phase, writing code and implementing the functionality in the coding phase, and debugging of code in the testing phase, installation of the software at the customer location and providing support, and these operations and support phases. In the develop schedule process, one needs to develop a project schedule irrespective of the industry or domain one is working in that. This is very important For example, while developing a schedule, it could be architecture, construction, it could be IT, or anything. You need to have a project schedule. Project schedule is that when you are going to start that, then what is the various things and how long you continue that project. So the schedule is very, very important, irrespective of the industry that you are working in at. So what are the project management processes, which I was telling you that the project lifecycle, project management processes. Here the project management process demonstrates the project lifecycle. These are 5 process groups. I was explaining you very clearly. The PMBOK guide each contains processes that support the goal of the process groups to successfully plan, execute, manage, and well run the project. So here what we talk about the project life cycle or the project management process. You initiate the project, you plan it, you execute it, you monitor and control, and closing. If you see the right side a picture, Mr. Raymond, that the monitoring and control, for example, it is there in all processes groups. You keep monitoring and initiating, planning, closing, and executing. Everywhere the monitoring and control happens. In fact, it's very, very important because it is a process that you need to control the project in all aspects. You need to monitor the performance of the project. All. Are you with me on this? Are you clear?
Yes, I understand that.
Good, good, okay. So here, the project management process groups initiating what we do here. You establish the vision of what the project will accomplish. Because every project you need to have a vision. What we are going to achieve from this project, am I right? When you do a school building, for example, a project, you have a clear vision that what you are going to achieve out of this project. So every project will have that vision statement. Then defines and authorizes the project or a project phase. In the initiating group, do you understand? You do know the concept of project charter? In your sponsor, have they given any time project charter?
Yes.
They do have charter, am I right? So the project charter, you're aware. Okay, fine. Who prepares the project charter, Mr. Raymond?
It's typically between the owner and us.
Owner and you.
with a project scope.
Okay, good.
And then from that point, we take that scope and turn it over to our estimating department.
The estimating
to an
planning
estimate
department.
to get a budget number.
Okay, good. So basically, you're absolutely right. Usually, the sponsor gives you the project charter. That means he is authorizing the project manager to go ahead with the project. He authorizes so that you take the project charter, you go to the estimation department of finance, or it could be your the other various other departments, and you get the required inputs or resources. In fact, am I right? So all these things happens in the initiating or the process group. Once this is done, you get into the planning or process group. Here, what you do, establish the total scope of the project. Here, in the initiating stage, you have a broad level of scope. Whereas in the planning process, you go more detail into the scope. Am I right? That's what you do.
Yep.
Then defines and refines objectives and plans the course of action required to attain the objectives and scope which the project was undertaken. Once the planning is done, then you do the execution process group. Here you integrate and coordinate people and other resources to carry out the project plan and deliver the agreed and scope of the project. After that, you do the monitoring and controlling process group, monitors and measures the progress regularly in order to identify the variances from the plan to appropriate corrective actions can be taken. Then you do the closing process group. Here formalizes the acceptance. Once it is closed, what you do, you need to get your customers' acceptance. Am I right? They will authorize this, they will accept the project, it gets over. So the service and result and brings the project or a project phase to an orderly end. This is what the process groups. This happens, as I said earlier, irrespective of the industry, irrespective of the domain, all this process is followed. So what is the definition of a process, Mr. Raymond? Is basically a set of activities designed to accomplish a specific objective. That is called a process. A process is a set of activities. Just to give an example, let's say at home, you need to make rice. You're familiar with the word rice, staple food, rice?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So how do you make rice? What is the process?
You boil water, stick the rice in, let it cook for five minutes, and then let it sit for 5 minutes.
Excellent. Okay.
And then mix in whatever else you want to mix in. Put it on a plate and serve it to your family members.
You get the output. Correct. Absolutely right. So what is the input? So every process will have some inputs. So when making a rice, what is your input? Your input of water and plain rice. Am I right? That is the process input. Correct?
Correct.
Then what is the tools and technology you used? What are the tools? You use a cooker. Am I right? That's one of the tools.
Yep.
Correct? And what is the technology? You heat it up. Either use a gas stove or it could be an electric stove. That could be the technology. Am I right? That you used.
Yep.
Then what you do it, you heat it up for about 10 minutes or 20 minutes till the whistle comes out. Am I right? That's the technology.
Yep.
And that is the process you followed. And what output you get is cooked steam rice. Am I right?
Correct.
So this is the process. So every process, you will have an input, you will have a process, and you document those process. For example, how many hours or how many minutes you have heated, what technology you used, what tools you used, use that, and you get an output, process output. This is a small example I give. So in the project management, same way, every process, you're talking about the 49 processes, am I right? The mobile number, you remember? So all the 49 process will have some inputs. You will have a tool and technology, and you will have a process output. Sometimes, for example, the plain rice you got it is an input for, suppose you want to make some other fried rice out of this plain rice. Okay, so what you do, you use this input, the plain rice, and you add some masala or some curry to that, and you make a, you heard about biryani or a fried rice by any chance? I don't know. So you get that output in fact, correct? So
Correct.
Some inputs, the outputs of some process will become the inputs for the next processes. So here, every process will have a owner process. You document the process. You get the process feedback also. For example, you have heated the rice for 10 minutes. If it's not cooked properly, then you say that the 10 minutes was not sufficient to make rice. So you get a feedback, correct? Am I right?
You're right.
What is the process objective? Process objective is to make the rice cooked. That is the process objective. Process matrix. You should use 10 minutes or 5 minutes. You have certain metrics. Process activities. You have to, for example, you need to heat it up. You need for that, you have to put on a switch. Electric means if it's a gas stove means you have to on the gas. So you have some activities. And you have to process improvement. Sometimes how you can improve that, whether within the 10 minutes can you cook or 8 minutes, whether you can improve the process procedures, process roles, process instructions. You are clearly you have got a set of instructions. Then process capabilities, whether your gas stove can do the cooking or electric stove can do the cooking, whether this process can do the cooking, and the process resources. So this all comes under the process definition of a process. Are you clear? In fact, I just give one example so that you can easily to understand, because throughout the project management thing, we'll be talking about the inputs, we'll be talking about the outputs, and we'll be talking about the tools and techniques. It is called, Mr. Rayban, it's called ITTO, ITO. That is, I stands for inputs, TT stands for tools and techniques, and O stands for output. So every process, again I'm repeating, you will have certain inputs, you will have a process, and you will get the outputs. Am I clear on this?
Yes, you are.
Okay, good. So let's understand how the project flows. The project life cycle flows shows the order of events that occur during a project duration. So you will have the executing process, you will have the work performance data, then you have controlling processes. The data will become an information, and in the overall project control, that information becomes a report. Just to give an example, let's take the cooking example, same thing. You say that you have a data that I cooked for 8 minutes. That is the data, am I right? It's a raw data, 8 minutes. 8 minutes does not give you unless you make an analysis. In that 8 minutes, I cooked half a kilo of rice. That becomes an information. Correct? You agree with me now?
Yep.
So whatever data, you analyze it and you inform, you make it as an information. And that information, suppose you have to inform to different stakeholders, you make it as a report. So any data, it will be a raw data. You convert that, you make an analysis of the data, make it as an information, and that information should be sent in the form of a report to various stakeholders. It's as simple as that. But in the project management environment, this is a very highly complex thing, in fact. Compiling a data, making an information and sending to the various stakeholders in terms of report is a big, big thing. And that is the responsibility of a project manager. How efficiently you collect the data, how you convert the data into useful information, and that useful information, how you report to the various stakeholders. Different stakeholders want different type of information. For example, reports, your owner, project owner, what is he interested? He is interested in two important things, whether the project is going as per the schedule and the project is going as per the cost. Am I right? That's what they'll be interested. You agree, Mr. Raymond?
Correct.
He will be interested. Whereas your financial head, a stakeholder, what he will be interested, basically whether the project is going under the cost. He'll be interested only with that, whether are you meeting the cost requirement for the project. What about your stakeholder from HR? What is he interested? Is he interested in cost?
No.
No. He's interested whatever resources your HR department has given, are they being used properly? Correct?
Correct.
Are they underutilized? Are they overutilized? Or all of them are working? So different stakeholders want different information, and you need to provide that information properly. That's very, very important. So the project change control, here the approved change request, which we'll discuss in detail about the change control in the following slides, because it's very, very important. I'm sure you're already familiar with that. Then the various project processes that we follow and the project communication. So it's all these work information reports, you're going to send it in terms of project communication to the project team members and project stakeholders. You understand, Mr. Raymond? This is how the project flow happens, in fact.
Yep, I understand that.
You understand? Okay, good.
Yep.
Because once you are clear about this concept, so it's easy to understand the further terms, right? So, sorry. So the project flow key terms, work performance data, which I explained to you very clearly. It's the raw observation and measurements identified during project activities. That data has to be converted or be collected from various controlling process, analyzed in the context, and that information should be passed on as a report, the physical or electronic representation of work performance information, such as in status reports, electronic dashboards, or recommendation. This is how the project flow goes. So the project management process, Mr. Raymond, is that Institutes provides a formalized project management process. A guide to the project management body of knowledge consists of 5 processes, 10 knowledge areas. Basically, the planning is a priority as plans is a pre-made every activity. Plans can be executed when developed in advance, and planning ensures that process is well thought out. Planning makes sure that project participants know their roles and responsibilities, and it eliminates confusion, rework, redundancy, and conflict. Ensure that the greater good drives the project decisions, and plans are done at the level of detail sufficient to determine the strategy, approach, and potential risk. And planning establish how quality and success are measured. We are done, and planning provides strategy for handling risk. So as I told you that the plan may fail, but you should never fail to plan. So the plan is one of the key important thing in the project management. The project process, as I told you, that a series of phases that project passes through from its start to its completion. There would be a phase gate, a review at the end of phase gate in which a decision is made to continue to the next level. Each project will have different phase gates. Initiating, for example, at that time, you review the project, whether it is going on the right direction as per the plan, is it going? So you call it as a phase gate, and you take a decision whether should we continue with the project or should we stop the project. The process group, a logical grouping of project management inputs, tools and techniques and outputs. I told you the process groups. Which are all the process groups? Can you recollect?
I guess I'm confused on what you're asking.
The process groups, the project management process groups. Which are all the 5 process groups?
Yeah, I can't think of them off the top of my head.
It should become your top of your mind. The 5 process groups, as I told you, 5 fingers.
Is it the initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, and closing?
Correct. They are the 5 process groups. So that should be the always important to remember the 5 process groups. Okay, then the knowledge area, an identified area of project management defined by its knowledge, requirements and described in terms of its processes and practices. So this is the how the project processes happens. Process group interactions, as I told you that here, if you look at it, this picture, a process group have a overlapping activity that occur throughout the project life cycle. The output of one process acts as an input to another. I gave you the cooking example. The steamed rice cooked and output can become an input for the next process to make some other dish. In a similar way, here you have got the initiating process group, planning, executing, monitoring and control and closing process group. Here, if you look at that, it is always interactive or overlapping over the other thing. So here, the level of process interaction, if you look at the monitoring and control, for example, the level is very, very high. Can you see this? In fact, monitoring and control, the execution, you can see these lines. So it clearly shows that on all the phases, it will be there. Got it? In fact, it's overlapping.
Yep.
Yes, that's right. So the process group interactions, sequential projects, it runs through the life cycle multiple times. Each closing phase is a phase gate to the another or next iteration. So here, for example, one approach to cleaning up a hazardous waste site, here a facility decommissioning, here in the various the monitoring and control, you can see that the example of a 3-phase project. There are some of the examples. I'm sure that in your experience also you must have come out with several. These are the sequential projects. Sequential projects, you know that after doing one activity, you can get into the next activity. You take a home project, since you are an architecture, you are very familiar. Only after laying the foundation, you can do the pillars, am I right? Correct?
Yep.
So that's called sequential. So that means, your activity depends, it has to go. After erecting the pillars, then you can put the concrete. Then afterwards, you can put the walls. Then you can put the roof. So these are all like the sequential activity. This is how it happens. So the project life cycle, again, a project life cycle represents the discrete units of work to be completed on the project. There are various classification of project life cycle, sequential and overlapping. I told you that, in sequential phases, the subsequent phase starts with only after the previous phase has been completed. The standing example is that your foundation, only after the foundation is ready, you can put the pillar on that. So it is called sequential. And sometimes overlapping also can happen in certain areas. For example, when you are putting the paint inside the room, you can do the painting as well as simultaneously the other side they can do the concrete also on the wall, am I right? It's called overlapping. That means 2 activities can run simultaneously. It happens in the overlapping phases, where 2 or more phases may run parallelly for same time. It happens mostly in your home projects. In fact, many activities can happen simultaneously. Predictive life cycle, I was telling you that the scope, cost and time are determined in the advance as an early as possible. Predictive, that means your scope is very clear in the beginning itself. The project is executed in a series of sequential or overlapping phases. They are suitable for large products which mostly require or known at the beginning of the project. That means predictive, and I gave you the example of a metro rail project. If you are laying the track on the, for example, on the ground, that means you know that it's all predictive life cycle. You know very well that here what is the soil condition or how deep you need to dig. These are all predictive life cycles. Suppose when you are doing this under the ground or under the sea, then that means it will become an iterative. It's some of the examples for that. Each phase focuses on different activities and may require different skill sets. So the project life cycle again continued here. The iterative, and another side is the iterative and incremental. This is what I was talking to you about, the agile principle. It's more of an agile environment. A high-level objective may be defined up in front, but the details are defined in each iteration. You have a broad level of understanding, but only when you start doing it, then you go into more and more details. So the product is developed through a series of such cycles, and iterative and incremental life cycle. Project phases intentionally repeat themselves because you keep on repeating the same thing in the project life cycle, in the iterative. So adaptive or agile life cycle, these are also incremental and iterative, but the iterations are very rapid here. Very short period of time, the iteration happens, in fact, because you're not sure about the scope for long things. So you need to keep on iterating so that you get that gets repeated, that activity in a very rapid manner. They are generally preferred when dealing with a rapidly changing environment. Complex project, underwater projects, underground projects, or something, some even in IT department, for example, when they're developing some different things, which are unknown, the very highly complex solution you're trying to find, you use the adaptive or agile principle. Okay. So agile mindset, which you're talking about, the 6th edition places much higher emphasis on agile. Agile techniques may best to projects involving high degree of new design, problem solving, and not done before work. Because you are not very clear about the scope, you are not done the previous thing, you don't have the lessons learned, it's like that. These projects have a high degree of uncertainty and require more collaboration to solve problems and create solutions. Examples of roles involved in a high uncertainty work include engineers, product designers, doctors, and lawyers. Doctors also today, agree with me that, Mr. Rahman, that some of the diseases which they are trying to find today are absolutely, they don't have a past data of those things, in fact. So the doctors, they try to diagnose these things, in fact, in agile. They keep on doing a lot of questions. They keep on evolving that. These projects have high rates of change, complexity, and risk, and this makes it difficult to define the bulk of requirements upfront and control changes through a change request process. So agile technique emphasizes exploring feasibility of short cycle, often called iteration or sprints. In fact, that means you keep on evolving, you keep on asking for information, you keep on getting the feedback. Based on that, you come out with a solution and quick adaptation based on the evaluation and feedback. This is the agile concept. So, can we, it is 12:30 now, Mr. Rahman, do you think 5 hours almost we are done? Should we close today?
Yeah, if you want, that's fine.
It's fine, no? Okay, because I don't want to bug you too much. We can go on and go on, but still, I want you to, probably I think it's better 5 hours you have completed today. We will take it up tomorrow, I think. So fresh mind. Okay.
Okay, so we'll pick it up here at this project framework.
Yeah, any questions? How was the first day, Mr. Raymond? How did you find?
It was good. It was good. A lot of information.
You liked it? The
yes.
flow is quite audible and the communication is very clear, I hope. And you're able to understand the concepts clearly, am I right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's important, actually. So just go through that, try to recollect whatever possible. And in case if you have any questions, you can always come back tomorrow and ask me. And we'll take this forward tomorrow from 18th slide. Okay.
What we did today, being recorded, right?
Yeah, it's been recorded, and they'll send you that recording. I think by tomorrow early morning or evening, you should get that in.
It'll come by email.
Yeah, it will. They'll send you the link. The operation guys, they'll send you the link so that once you open the link, you can hear that.
Okay, awesome.
That's great. Okay. So have a great day, and we'll catch up tomorrow at 7:30. Okay.
Sounds good.
Bye-bye. Take care. Good day.